Chapter 851. Late Spirit Severing Realm was a true immortal, the same level as the 7 powerhouses who descended upon the star boundary. In other words, if he were to return to the star boundary and face immortal Songhai again, he might be able to put up a fight. Of course, immortal Songhai was a veteran, true immortal. Even if he hadn't fully recovered his strength, he was sure to have extraordinary means. Thus, he wasn't completely confident. However, in the extraterritorial demon realm, where everyone was his enemy, his confidence was greatly boosted. Late Spirit Severing Realm cultivators are probably very rare in the extraterritorial demon realm. In terms of strength, I should be able to rank in the top 10 in this world, right? Baizua naturally had some understanding of the strength of the various extraterrestrial demon experts in the extraterrestrial demon world. Apart from 2 peak Spirit Severing Realm experts and 3 late Spirit Severing Realm experts, he was confident that he wouldn't fear any of the other Spirit Severing Realm experts if he were to face them alone. After all, the Xiaoke Demon Lord was also a mid-Spirit Severing Realm expert, but he was also among the top 10 in the extraterritorial demon realm. Speaking of the Xiaoke Demon Lord, now that he's dead, his lair must be empty. If I don't harvest the countless treasures inside, won't I be giving them to others? Moreover, as the king of the divine Deer Mountain Range, the Xiaoke Demon Lord has the most extraterritorial demons in his lair. Once I kill them all, I'll gain a large amount of soul energy. Perhaps whether or not the heaven-startling staff strike can be repaired and whether or not my immortal techniques can advance further will all depend on these extraterrestrial devils. Ziyue didn't linger on the spot for long. After determining the direction, he turned and charged toward the Xiaoke Demon Lord's lair. However, Ziyue soon paused, and a smile flashed through his eyes. Such a large scale of sky devils, led by 7 or 8 sky devils at the level of devil kings, 300 devil marshals, 5,000 devil generals, and 100,000 devil soldiers. What a great battle formation! What a powerful force! If I'm not wrong, this should be the group of subordinates that originally followed Xiaoke Devil Master here. What they don't know is that their king, the Sparrow Demon Master, has already fallen before them. Ziyue looked into the distance. Countless otherworldly demons were either flying in the sky, forming formations, or riding on warships. He felt a little happy. If it was in the past, he would have to expend some effort to kill this batch of extraterrestrial demons due to their numbers. After all, there were too many of them. Even though his methods were astonishing and the range of his attacks was extremely large, it was still difficult for him to envelop all the extraterrestrial demons. However, at this moment, he had completely restored the heaven-startling 3-rod strikes and even raised it to perfection. Naturally, everything was no longer a problem. It's that astral fiend. Get into formation and attack. At the same time, when Ziyue discovered this group of otherworldly demons, they had also discovered Ziyue. Thinking of Ziyue's battle achievements, they first panicked. Then, under the leadership of a peak-level Demon King realm expert, they quickly split up into formations and cooperated with each other. Immediately, a terrifying aura rose into the air. Although it seemed a little weak because of the formation, the aura was so strong that it was not much weaker than that of Xiaoke Devil Master, who had the strength of a middle-level spirit-severing stage expert. Astral Fiend? I didn't expect that I would be so terrifying in their eyes. A hint of interest appeared on Ziyue's face. However, when he thought about what he had done in the extraterrestrial demon world, he somewhat understood. Along the way, he had been too ruthless in his killing. He had almost massacred many demon lairs. The number of extraterrestrial demons that had died in his hands was even more uncountable. It was very normal for people to call him a fiend because of this, even if these extraterrestrial demons were demons themselves. However, it was also because of this that Ziyue's name was even more ingrained in the hearts of the demons. However, even if Ziyue was a little surprised, he would not show any mercy because of this. With a flip of his hand, he took out a long rod. This long rod was naturally not the middle-level primordial spirit realm treasure from before. Instead, It was the blood-smelting demon rod that he had taken out from Zhaoke, Devil Master's grotto heaven, when he had killed him. Although this blood-smelting demon rod had not reached the level of a demonic treasure, due to its special material and shocking hardness, it was stronger than ordinary primordial spirit realm treasures. It could be called a half-step demonic treasure. Ziyue relied on his powerful blood chi and the characteristics of his complete soul to easily subdue the demonic nature of the rod. Naturally, it was very easy for him to control it. With the blood-smelting demon rod in his hand, Ziyue swung it. Chi chi chi. The void shook and the heavens and earth were suppressed. In the blink of an eye, 3 shadows of the rod were slowly thrown out. These 3 strikes were the heaven-shaking 3 strikes. The 3 shadows of the rod. One of them broke the sky, one of them shattered the earth, and one of them stabilized the universe. It was like a brilliant heavenly power that immediately enveloped all the extraterrestrial demons. Then it smashed down heavily. Boom, boom, boom. The heavens and earth roared and the earth cracked. Within a radius of nearly 100 miles, where countless extraterrestrial demons were, a large area of space seemed to have been shattered at this moment. It instantly collapsed, shattered, and turned into nothingness. The terrifying power of strangulation fell on countless extraterrestrial demons at the first moment, shattering their bodies and turning them into particles of flesh and blood and particles of nothingness after the strike. The heavens and earth were pitch black. The collapsed space seemed to have suffered unimaginable damage. Even though it was recovering rapidly, the pitch-black void seemed to have boundless darkness, which made any living creatures who approached it feel great fear and did not dare to come close. The group of extraterrestrial demons who were originally in this space, whether they were demon kings comparable to the primordial spirit realm, demon commanders of the gold core realm, or demon generals of the god realm, all of them had completely died and disappeared without a trace. This is the position of the heaven-shaking 3 strikes. Once the 3 strikes are thrown out, the universe is stabilized, and it is almost as if it can destroy the world. It is too powerful and too terrifying. Compared to it, my heart sword art is far too inferior, be it in terms of attack range or power. Even though Ziyue had long guessed that the power of the heaven-shaking 3 strikes was so great that it had exceeded the limits of his previous strength by a large margin. But at this moment, when he really used this secret technique to kill enemies and witness the terror of the heaven-shaking 3 strikes, he truly understood its true power. This is only the heaven-shaking 3 strikes. What if it is the last strike of the heaven-shaking staff technique? The heaven-shaking 1 strike. How powerful will it be? Will it allow me to unleash power comparable to the peak of the spirit-severing stage as a late-stage primordial spirit realm cultivator? Ziyue guessed in his heart and secretly looked forward to it. But he was very clear that the power of the heaven-shaking 1 strike might really be as shocking as its name suggested. After verifying the power of this strike, Ziyue could not wait to look at his attribute panel. Compared to knowing the level of his strength, he was actually more looking forward to this battle. Or rather, after this strike, how much spiritual energy would he gain from killing hundreds of thousands of extraterrestrial demons? It should be known that although he had killed many extraterrestrial demons previously, in terms of overall strength and the number of experts, they were far inferior to this batch. 75 billion spiritual energy. Ziyue's gaze was soon stunned, and he was extremely excited. If I remember correctly, after the heaven-shaking 3 strikes had been raised to perfection previously, my spiritual energy was at most a little over 100 million spiritual energy. But now, it has suddenly increased to 75 billion spiritual energy, which is equivalent to a direct increase of 6 billion spiritual energy. If there is another wave, won't my spiritual energy soar to 8 billion spiritual energy very quickly? 8 billion spiritual energy could allow his immortal technique realm to increase by another level, from the late-stage primordial spirit realm to the perfected primordial spirit realm. If he wanted to increase his spiritual energy to 8 billion spiritual energy in the astral realm, He did not know how many years it would take and how much time he would have to cultivate. But in this extraterrestrial demon realm, where he was surrounded by enemies, there was no need to worry at all, and it allowed his spiritual energy to soar greatly. In just a short period of time, it allowed his strength to soar and more than double, and it was foreseeable that his strength would soon increase by a large margin again. Continue. Charge for the sake of increasing my spiritual energy to 8 billion spiritual energy. Ziyue was in high spirits. To others, the extraterrestrial demon realm was like a devil's cave hell, but at this moment, to him, it was like a paradise, a supreme land of immortals, containing great treasures and great fortunes. Ziyue directly used the 1,000 miles in a breath and once again set off towards the various devil's caves. High Leader Devil's Cave, King Devil's Cave, China Devil's Cave, Wanwei Devil's Cave, by Ziyue advanced triumphantly, pushing forward continuously. Soon, several more devil's caves were destroyed by his hands. Each of these devil's caves could increase his spiritual energy by 5 to 1 billion spiritual energy, and occasionally, 1 or 2 spiritual energy could reach more than 1 billion spiritual energy. Soon, Ziyue's spiritual energy had reached 7.5 billion spiritual energy, and he was only 500 million spiritual energy away from 8 billion spiritual energy. Next, it's the Devil's Cave where the Zhaoke Demon Master is. Although the Zhaoke Demon Master has already fallen, and many of his subordinates have already been killed by me, the Zhaoke Demon Master is still in the heart of the mountain range. After all, the Devil's Cave where the Zhaoke Demon Master is located at the center of the entire mountain range of Divine Deer. Not only is the demonic energy the most abundant in the entire mountain range of Divine Deer, but it also has the most extraterrestrial demons living there. I'm sure that after I destroy this Devil's Cave, my spiritual energy will definitely rise to more than 8 billion spiritual energy. Ziyue's heart was filled with anticipation, but when he looked up at the sky, he could not help but frown. As the number of extraterrestrial demons he killed increased, he could feel more and more that the malice of the Great Path and the void that originated from the Great Path will become stronger and stronger. In contrast, the power of the divine punishment acting on him also became stronger and stronger, especially the misfortune entanglement. There were a few times when Ziyue would inexplicably encounter danger. Sometimes there would be sudden heavenly lightning or inexplicable spatial rifts. Sometimes there would be spatial turbulence or overlapping spatial rifts as he moved forward. The spatial turbulence actually sent him to the endless starry sky outside the extraterrestrial demon world. Once he stepped into it, not only would countless dangers await him, but it would also be difficult for him to enter the extraterrestrial demon world or the star boundary. He would have to drift alone in the endless starry sky. The overlapping spatial rifts could be seen as a kind of ultra-long-distance teleportation array. However, ordinary teleportation arrays were set up by array Dao experts with the help of the Great Array's power, the laws of heaven and earth, and the spatial coordinates. The overlapping spatial rifts were naturally formed. When two spatial coordinates were extremely close to each other, it would form a teleportation anomaly. When he saw the overlapping spatial rifts, Ziyue had no doubt that once he stepped into it, what awaited him on the other side would not be good. Either there would be some kind of supreme, killing formation, an incomparably wondrous formation, or there would be a top-notch expert on the other side of this world who happened to be nearby. Once he stepped out of the overlapping spatial rifts, they would definitely attack him. In short, such a phenomenon of heaven and earth would only appear with a very small probability in this world. However, because of Ziyue's characteristic of being surrounded by misfortune, it was infinitely magnified. Moreover, it happened to appear beside him or somewhere he had to pass by. It even allowed Ziyue to step into it unknowingly. That was to say, Ziyue had the attribute panel and could use the power of time reversal. Even if he really stepped into it, as long as his life was not threatened immediately, he would be able to retreat in time. Otherwise, even if his strength was shocking and his combat strength was enough to dominate the extraterrestrial demon world and was at the top level, he would still be schemed to death. It seems that I can't stay in this world for too long. Under the influence of this misfortune, all kinds of phenomena appear frequently. If something goes wrong, the overlapping spatial rifts will suddenly appear in front of a true immortal at the late stage of the spirit-severing stage, or two supreme experts at the peak of the spirit-severing stage. If they happen to be curious and crossover, then I'll be in danger. Ziyue was extremely vigilant in his heart. He knew very well that if it was under normal circumstances, this would naturally be impossible to happen. However, under the situation where he was surrounded by misfortune, countless impossibilities would become possible. The probability of such an almost impossible thing happening would also increase by countless times because of this. He estimated that it would not be long before it became an inevitable thing. It's a good thing that my soul energy has already reached 7.5 billion points. Soon, it will reach 8 billion points. At that time, my immortal technique realm will be able to improve again, and my strength will also soar greatly. Even if there is any danger, my confidence will be relatively greater. Ziyue's mind calmed down slightly, and he naturally had the idea of returning as soon as possible. However, he was still a little unwilling to accept the fact that his soul energy had not reached 8 billion points. Therefore, even though he knew that the longer he stayed, the more dangerous it would be, he still decided to take the risk and wait for a while. As for repairing the heaven-shocking staff strike and improving it to perfection, of course, his soul energy was enough to do this. However, in his opinion, the immortal technique realm was the foundation. If his realm increased, all his methods would soar. The increase in his strength would naturally be much greater than the increase in the heaven-shocking staff strike. If possible, he would naturally place the increase of his realm as the first priority. Chapter 852. We've arrived at the Zhaokei Demon Nest. This is indeed the nest of the Zhaokei Demon Nest. Even though it's so far away, the demonic aura here is several times denser than other places. If we really enter the demon nest, the demonic aura here will definitely be as dense as some immortal blessed lands. Wait, there are thousands of veins here and tens of thousands of strands of demonic aura. Could this be the dragon vein of the divine Deer Mountain Range? Yes. As the strongest person in the divine Deer Mountain Range, the demonic aura in the Zhaokei Demon Nest is naturally the densest in the divine Deer Mountain Range. Isn't the place with the densest demonic aura in the divine Deer Mountain Range where the dragon vein is located? As a top-array master, Ziyue was naturally very familiar with the terrain and the earth vein. He didn't notice it before, but now that he saw it, he was shocked. Then his eyes lit up. He suddenly thought of his hometown, the ancient barren region. Because of the arrival of the 7 immortal realm experts, the ancient barren region had sunk and the dragon vein had been broken. Most of its vitality had been cut off, and only a few branches had survived. Because of this, the spiritual energy in the ancient barren region had become extremely thin. It was far inferior to other regions. Previously, he had inquired about the dragon vein. If he wanted to restore the dragon veins in the ancient barren region, he would have to spend a lot of time traversing the entire ancient barren region step by step to sort out the earth vein foundation chi and restore bit by bit. He would also have to cut off the other low-grade dragon veins and bury them in the ancient barren region. Only then would he be able to restore the ancient barren region's dragon veins and restore the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the ancient barren region to its peak. Originally, he didn't want to do it, because he didn't have enough strength and time, and because the other dragon veins in the ancient barren region belonged to different regions. They were all part of the astral boundary. Naturally, he couldn't take them. Therefore, he planned to deal with them in the future. But now, looking at the dragon vein of the Zhaokei Demon Nest in the divine Deer Mountain Range, Ziyue was finally tempted. The entire divine Deer Mountain Range is much larger than the ancient desolate region. If we cut off the entire dragon vein and plant it in the ancient desolate region, not only will it revive the dragon vein in the ancient desolate region, but it will also make its atmosphere better. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth will also be restored to its peak in a short period of time. It might even be better than before. Ziyue thought silently. His gaze then landed on the Zhao Sparrow demon nest. Without any hesitation, he smashed down with his cudgel, heaven shaking 3 strikes of the rod. In an instant, there were 3 shadows of rods descending from the sky. 1 strike to break the sky, 1 strike to shatter the earth, and 1 strike to break the firmament. Boom, boom, boom. As the space collapsed, the formation that enveloped the entire Zhaoke demon lair began to rapidly recover. Then, as it reached its limit, it began to collapse and shatter. Rumble. The terrifying force of the formation swiftly swept across the place, causing the entire Zhao Sparrow demon lair to crumble and collapse. No, how can this be? The defensive formation of the Zhaoke demon nest was set up by the whale demon master, the god of formations. It can withstand the full blow of a demon master at the late spirit severing stage. No matter how strong this person is, he is not at the level of a demon king at the primordial spirit severing stage. How can he break through the defense of the formation? Cries of agony and disbelief quickly rang out from within the devil's denver. They could not believe that the formation that they had thought to be extremely sturdy and could make their demon nest impregnable was so weak in the hands of someone else. 1 blow, just 1 blow, and the formation was destroyed? The power of this formation is indeed not bad. It is compatible with the entire dragon vein and complements each other. There are also 10,800 formation bases that can allow the 10,800 extraterritorial demons to perform their duties and help the formation to reach a higher level. Once the power of the formation is fully unleashed, even a peak spirit severing stage expert would have to put in a lot of effort to break it, let alone a late spirit severing stage expert. Ziyue looked at the formation that had been destroyed, and a look of admiration flashed across his eyes. Then, he quickly shook his head and muttered, "It is a pity that the Zhaoke demon master and the tens of thousands of experts under him had already left the nest and were killed by me. Otherwise, if they had continued to defend this place, it would have taken quite a long time for me to destroy it." There was a huge difference in the power of the formation with and without experts guarding it. Now that the Zhaoke demon nest was empty and the powerful extraterritorial demons had left, it was naturally difficult to increase the power of the formation to the maximum. This was the reason why Bai Ziyue was able to shatter the grade 6 array with a single strike. However, even if the Zhaoke demon master and his subordinates did not make a move, I would only have to put in a little more effort. The result would not have changed at all. Regarding this, Bai Ziyue could be said to be extremely confident. Even if the Zhaoke demon master and the others did not appear and the speed at which his soul power increased had slowed down, there were still quite a number of demon nests in the Fairy Deer Mountain range. Once he destroyed all the demon nests around him and returned to the Zhaoke demon nest, his power would be much stronger than before. It wouldn't be too difficult to shatter the Great Demon Protection Array. Then, he took advantage of the momentum and ruthlessly slammed his palm into the demon's den. Rumble. The entire space collapsed instantly. Countless extraterritorial demons were crushed into meat paste and dust by the terrifying spiritual power in the collapsing space. After a few breaths, Ziyue floated in the air again with a calm look on his face. Just as Bai Ziyue's palm descended and was about to destroy the entire Zhaoke demon nest, a tall and sturdy being with a long horn on his head suddenly opened his eyes on a mountain hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. He looked at the huge, foggy space that suddenly appeared in front of him. With his knowledge, he naturally knew that it was an overlapping space. In other words, once he entered the overlapping space, it was as if he was taking a teleportation formation and could directly go to another place from where he was. Who would have thought that the overlapping space, which is rarely seen in 10,000 years, would suddenly appear? The figure watched with interest, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of curiosity. Moreover, for some reason, he instinctively felt that there would definitely be treasures that he desired on the other side of the overlapping space. Although he was worried, he was powerful enough to be ranked among the top in the entire extraterritorial demon world. Naturally, he was not too afraid. I'd like to see what's on the other side of the overlapping space, he muttered to himself. He muttered, but his voice was like thunder. Then, he took a step forward without hesitation and stepped into the overlapping space. At the same time that he stepped into the overlapping space, several overlapping spaces also appeared in various parts of the extraterritorial demon world. Either out of curiosity, desire, or disdain, those demon masters who were at the same level as him all stepped into the overlapping space. The number of spirit energy has reached 9 billion. At this moment, Zue's mind was calm. He only felt a sense of satisfaction. 9 billion spirit energy. He was only 1 billion spirit energy away from reaching 10 billion. This amount of spirit energy would naturally be difficult to obtain in the astral plane. It would take a long time to accumulate. However, in the extraterritorial demon world, where extraterritorial demons were everywhere, it was extremely easy. At most, he could make up for it by destroying one demon nest. If one was not enough, he would destroy two. However, for me, the most important thing is to raise my immortal technique realm to the peak of the primordial soul realm. Although 10 billion spirit energy is tempting, if it triggers the attribute panel's upgrade effect, it's not worth it. It'll also put me in danger. Zue naturally would not choose to break through to 10 billion spirit energy at this time. He upgraded his attribute panel. His gaze quickly fell on the primordial soul realm technique that he had created, the grand primordial soul scripture. Spending 8 billion spirit energy can raise the grand primordial soul scripture from mastery to perfection. The grand primordial soul scripture from mastery to perfection corresponds to my immortal technique realm from the late-stage primordial soul realm to the peak of the primordial soul realm. Ugh, he muttered to himself and looked at his attribute panel again. Looking at the 9 billion spirit energy, that number that was like an ocean made him reveal a trace of infatuation. This was the highest amount of spirit energy displayed on his attribute panel. If possible, he really wanted to accumulate another wave and break through to 10 billion spirit energy as soon as possible. However, he was well aware of his situation. He was even more aware that to him, strength was the foundation of his survival in the immortal technique world. Very quickly, his expression became resolute, and he chose to advance without hesitation. Upgrade. Buzz. Zue stared blankly at the attribute panel. The 9 billion spirit energy seemed to have been devoured by a terrifying giant beast. In an instant, there were only 900 million spirit energy left. Then, Zue felt his mind tremble as the grand primordial spirit scripture began to circulate crazily. At the same time, his primordial spirit, physical body, and soul also began to soar along with the circulation of the scripture. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. After the primordial soul and physical body reached a certain limit, Zue immediately felt a special change in his primordial soul and physical body. Not only were the two more compatible, but they also seemed to be able to merge into one. I'm at the peak of the primordial soul realm. My immortal technique realm has leaped from the late-stage primordial soul realm to the peak of the primordial soul realm. It has reached the limit where it can't be upgraded anymore. Zue's spirit was shaken, and he was pleasantly surprised. This time, it could definitely be considered as the fastest increase in strength he had ever experienced. In a short period of time, his immortal technique realm had risen from the mid-stage primordial soul realm to the late-stage primordial soul realm. Now, it had risen to the peak of the primordial soul realm. It had only taken an incense stick's worth of time. It should be known that it was extremely difficult to upgrade the immortal technique realm after reaching the primordial soul realm. Even if one was exceptionally talented and had extraordinary potential, it would still require a long period of bitter cultivation and extreme understanding of heaven and earth. Often, it would take hundreds or even thousands of years to make a small improvement in the immortal technique realm. Some experts even had no hope of making a breakthrough in their lifetime and could only remain at the early stage or mid-stage primordial soul realm. However, at this point, my immortal technique realm has also reached its peak and can't be upgraded anymore. At least, it will be difficult for me to upgrade in a short period of time. This is because after the peak of the primordial soul realm is the spirit severing realm. Now, although my strength is not weak and my combat strength is not weaker than an expert at the late-stage spirit severing realm, it is still somewhat difficult for my immortal technique realm to reach the spirit severing realm. At least, I don't have the slightest clue at the moment. Ziyue's mind was calm. Naturally, he also wanted to upgrade again and advance to the spirit severing realm. The spirit severing realm was a completely different immortal technique realm from the primordial soul realm. Not only could it increase his lifespan greatly, but could also help him transcend and completely break free from the restrictions of the astral realm and roam the endless starry sky. However, although he now had the strength to break through to the spirit severing realm, and the immortal technique realm that he had raised with the help of soul energy was also extremely stable and did not have any weakness. It seemed very solid, but he instinctively knew that he was still lacking an opportunity to break through to the spirit severing realm. He did not know what the so-called opportunity was. However, he knew very well that it was impossible to find this opportunity in the extraterrestrial demon world. This was definitely not a good place to advance from the primordial soul realm to the spirit severing realm. However, although it is difficult for my strength to advance to the spirit severing realm in a short period of time, however, my strength has soared again with the increase of my realm. If I can unleash the power of the first level of the middle stage of the spirit severing realm with the heart sword technique, and the heaven-shocking 3 rod strikes can unleash the power of the second level of the late stage of the spirit severing realm, then now, with my immortal technique realm at the peak of the primordial soul realm, my physical body and soul have completely merged into one, and there is no distinction between them. If I use the heart sword technique, it is enough to let me unleash the power of the late stage of the spirit severing realm. And if I use the heaven-shocking 3 rod strikes, even if I am not as strong as a true expert at the peak of the spirit severing realm, the power of this rod technique is definitely at the peak of the spirit severing realm. After Ziyue's realm sword, apart from his subsequent cultivation, what he cared about the most was the increase of his strength. After a comparison, he naturally had his own judgment, touching and even reaching the peak of the spirit severing stage. This could be considered the top level in the extraterrestrial devil world. One had to know that in the entire extraterrestrial demon world, there were only 2 people who had reached the peak of the spirit severing realm. One was the supreme heavenly demon who had stepped into the astral world 10,000 years ago and caused great damage to the astral world. The other was the 10,000-hand heavenly demon who had suddenly appeared in the past 10,000 years. The moment he appeared, he displayed a terrifying strength that was not weaker than the supreme heavenly demon. In other words, with Ziyue's current strength, which was almost comparable to the combat strength of an expert at the peak of the spirit severing realm, he could be ranked in the top 3 in this huge extraterrestrial demon world, at least in the top 5. Whether it is the top 3 or the top 5, at least in this extraterrestrial demon world, I already have enough strength to protect myself. Other than those 2 who make a move, I'm not afraid of anyone else. Ziyue whispered. Only then did he look at the huge dragon vein underground. Chapter 853. His powerful strength gave him endless confidence. As for the time to leave, it was not as urgent as before. Naturally, he wanted to obtain more treasures in this extraterritorial demon world. This underground dragon vein was one of the treasures that he desperately wanted to obtain. Thinking of this, Ziyue's figure flashed, and like a sharp arrow, he instantly rushed underground. Chi-chi, the ground cracked open, and Ziyue went directly underground. Soon, an unbelievably thick dragon vein, which exuded a dense and majestic dragon court ancestral chi, appeared in front of him. The dragon vein seemed to be supported by an unparalleled power. Just by approaching it, one would feel small and insignificant. Even Bai Ziyue could not help but feel a sense of reverence. Even Bai Ziyue felt a little surprised. In this place where thousands of spiritual veins gathered, the dragon vein was indeed filled with endless opportunities. Once it was destroyed or severed, one would definitely receive a backlash from the dragon vein origin. It was very dangerous. With the size and strength of this dragon vein, once it is severed, the backlash will definitely be extremely strong. At least it will not be weaker than the full blow of an initial spirit severing stage expert. Ziyue knew that all things had spirits. For example, this dragon vein would definitely be supported by the Great Tao. Once attacked, one would definitely receive a backlash from the spiritual energy. If one was not careful, one would be seriously injured and die. Therefore, under normal circumstances, no one dared to easily attack a dragon vein in a region. However, even if there was a possibility of a backlash, Ziyue still wanted to give it a try. After all, this was the fastest way to revive the dragon vein in the ancient desolate region. Thinking of this, he quickly took out the Kunwu Golden Pagoda and activated the true dragon armor technique to the extreme, covering his entire body in a defensive spell. Then, with a thought, the North Sea flying sword rushed out and slashed fiercely. Chi! A transparent sword light quickly rushed out and landed on a dragon vein in the blink of an eye. Poof! A crisp sound was heard. Ziyue's flying sword was extremely sharp, and the power on the flying sword was even more terrifying. Even though the dragon vein was supported by a special force, it could not block the flying sword attack and was cut in half. However, the moment the dragon vein was sliced in half, the dragon vein was slashed in half. Rumble! The ground quaked, and the entire Mount Goddard seemed to let out a howl of anguish. Countless shells began to move, causing earthquakes and volcanoes to erupt. At the same time, Ziyue felt a terrifying and powerful shockwave. It was as if it was following a special trajectory of fate and smashed down on him. This fluctuation was the backlash from the dragon vein after he severed it. The power of this backlash was terrifying. Not only did it affect his body, but there was also an attack that ignored his external defenses and ferociously charged at his origin soul. Boom! When the power of the backlash fell on the Kunwu Golden Pagoda, 80% of its power dissipated. The remaining 20%, even if it originally had the power of a full-strength attack of an expert at the early stage of the spirit severing stage, could not break Ziyue's real dragon dark armor technique. It quickly dissipated like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. As for the shockwave that acted on his origin soul, it should be known that Ziyue's origin soul and physical body could be transformed at will and completely integrated into one. The origin soul could be divided into incomparably small particles of origin soul and enter the depths of the flesh and blood. The physical body could also be divided into particles of flesh and blood and integrated into the origin soul. The two could be freely transformed. Unless the attack could completely destroy his flesh and blood particles and origin soul particles in one fell swoop, it would be difficult to cause any harm to him. Bai Ziyue was not affected in the slightest, as if it was a gentle breeze brushing his face. Just like that, he forcefully withstood the backlash of the attack. The entire dragon vein has a total of 9 branches. If I want to cut off all of them, I still need to cut off 9 more times. After resisting the backlash, Ziyue secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then his figure flashed and appeared in another direction. He slashed down again from a distance. After one slash, another slash. A total of 9 slashes fell. Rumble! The entire Zhaoke demon cave shook violently. The terrifying sound of the earth's crust shaking was as if the sky was collapsing. Countless towering mountains that reached into the clouds were torn apart. There were also sounds of rivers stopping flowing, volcanoes erupting, and the terrible environment of the earth's crust cracking. A dragon vein was one of the foundations of a region. Once a branch was cut off, it was enough to cause an irreversible outcome. Extremely terrible natural disasters would descend. Moreover, Ziyue had cut off 9 branches of the entire Fairy Deer mountain range. The impact was almost as great as the natural disasters caused by the sinking of the ancient barren region in the astral boundary 10,000 years ago. Many living beings in the Fairy Deer Mountain range were in despair and felt as if they had entered the end of the world. He could clearly feel that the demon origin energy around him was quickly disappearing. The demon vein and demon mountain that had been continuously producing demon origin energy was like a withered flower or a fountain that had lost its source. It gradually withered and died. However, on the other hand, Ziyue also suffered 9 recoil forces at this moment. Each of the recoil forces was at least comparable to the full force attack of an expert in the initial stage of the spirit-severing realm. Especially the last one, it was comparable to the full force attack of an expert in the intermediate stage of the spirit-severing realm. However, Ziyue blocked all of them and did not hurt him at all. Rise! Out of the 9 branches, one of the main branches was cut off. Then, Ziyue stretched out his hand and grabbed the entire dragon vein. It was like a real dragon stretching out its claws. He directly grabbed the entire dragon vein from the ground and shot it into the sky. Rumble. The soil rolled and the earth shook. Endless mountains and rivers were shattered. Ziyue grabbed the entire dragon vein, and it was as if he had the strength to uproot mountains and rivers. It was filled with a domineering aura. Buzz, buzz, buzz. However, at this moment, the sky shook. A terrifying and huge shadow suddenly appeared in the sky. Immediately after, a special and terrifying spiritual light descended in an instant and rushed directly into his body. Divine punishment had descended. The third divine punishment had finally descended. And this time, it was the heaviest and most terrifying divine punishment that the will of the Great Path could give. Enemies of the whole world, as long as the living beings of the extraterrestrial devil world discovered by Ziyue, they would disregard everything and treat him as a mortal enemy. They would attack him with all their might. There was no right or wrong, no enmity, only killing until there was a trace of peace. Obviously, Ziyue's action of cutting off the dragon vein of the divine Deer Mountain range and directly pulling it out had finally angered the will of the Great Path completely. That was why such a terrifying divine punishment had descended. Enemies of the whole world. Ziyue's face couldn't help but turn solemn. He didn't care about the hostility of ordinary extraterritorial demon realm experts. However, if the demon masters of the entire extraterritorial demon realm, especially the 2 demon masters at the peak of the spirit-severing realm, attacked him, he would be in a bad situation. After all, the means of the will of the Great Path were enough to make such experts appear in front of him instantly. And just as he was muttering in his heart and thinking about something, the void trembled slightly. Then, Ziyue felt that overlapping spaces suddenly appeared around him. In the next moment, several terrifying existences with magnificent auras stepped out from the overlapping spaces. Ziyue looked around, and his face changed and his heart sank. 5. There were a total of 5 extraterritorial demon realm experts. One of them was at the late stage of the spirit-severing realm, while the other 4 were at the middle stage of the spirit-severing realm. Saber, Demon Master. 10 Luminaries, Demon Master Miao Qi. They are the 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and 13th Demon Masters in the extraterritorial demon realm, respectively. I didn't expect that when the divine punishment descended, they would also use the overlapping spaces to directly rush over. Ziyue really felt a sense of pressure. This pressure didn't just come from this group of demon masters, but also from the unknown and possibly other demon masters that might be coming. Since the extraterritorial demon realm could send them over, they would definitely be able to send the Supreme Demon Master and the 10,000 Hands Demon Master over. But in fact, what Ziyue didn't know was that these 5 demon masters didn't come because of the divine punishment that made him the enemy of the whole world. Instead, they came because of the second divine punishment on him. Under the natural operation of the will of the Great Path, under the influence of bad luck, they were sent here through the overlapping space. One of them was at the late stage of the spirit-severing realm, and 4 were at the middle stage of the spirit-severing realm. Their strength just happened to be stronger than Ziyue when he hadn't broken through to the peak of the primordial spirit realm, and they were enough to kill him. Unfortunately, even the will of the Great Path didn't expect that Ziyue's strength would actually soar again in such a short time and rise to the peak of the primordial spirit realm. Experts from another world, kill, die. In the beginning, the Saber Enlightenment Demon Master, the 10 Luminaries Demon Master, and the others were still a little surprised. But the moment they saw Ziyue, an instinctive and strong hostility surged in their hearts. And at this moment, the will of the Great Path sent them a message, informing them that once they killed Ziyue, a great opportunity would descend, and they would be blessed with endless luck and auspicious signs. Suddenly, all the extraterritorial demons were excited. All kinds of attacks swept towards Ziyue in an instant. If it was before I broke through, you could indeed pose a threat to me. But now, even though he was still a little worried, Ziyue wasn't too afraid. With a thought, the huge dragon vein in his hand had already been stored in the internal space of the Kunwa Golden Pagoda. Then, a flying sword turned into a stream of light and rapidly rushed toward a middle-stage spirit, severing realm demon master expert. At the same time, a terrifying divine light silently rushed toward another demon master in the middle stage of the spirit severing stage. At this moment, it was Ziyue who used the heart sword technique and the magnetic divine light. 2 attacks rushed out one after another. It happened to collide with the attacks of the 2 extraterritorial demons. Rumble. As if they were unstoppable, the heart sword technique and origin magnetic divine light annihilated their attacks one after another. Then, they both turned into streams of light and directly crushed these 2 middle-stage spirit severing realm demon masters. No, the 2 demon masters were extremely shocked and furious, but they couldn't move at all. They didn't even have time to react. They could only watch as the attacks landed on their bodies. Bang! In an instant, their bodies, flesh, blood, and soul fragments turned into ashes. Dead. Even though the strength of the 2 middle-stage spirit severing realm demon masters was terrifying, and when they attacked with their full strength, their power was shocking and could shatter the sky. However, Ziyue's attack was even more powerful, especially now that his immortal technique realm had increased and reached the peak of the essence soul realm under the Great Tao unification technique. The power of the essence soul, the power of the soul, and the power of the physical body in his body merged into one, turning into a pure golden essence force. Even if it was only a trace, it contained terrifying and majestic power. Using such golden essence force to cast out techniques, the power would naturally soar. This allowed Ziyue's 2 attacks to reach the late stage of the spirit severing realm, comparable to the full-strength attack of a late-stage spirit severing realm expert. Only in this way could he have such a crushing effect. It was a pity that one of the Demon Master's doppelganger was outside and did not come with him. Therefore, even though Bai Ziyue had crushed the doppelganger's body into smithereens, he did not really kill him. His soul energy naturally didn't increase by much. Only one of them, because his clone and main body were both in his body, would completely die after dying at this time. However, it brought a total of 450 million points of soul energy to Ziyue. After killing 2 demon masters in succession, Ziyue's expression didn't relax. Because at the same time, the attacks of the other 3 demon masters happened to fall on Ziyue's body. Even with the Kunwa Golden Pagoda blocking, 20% to 30% of the power still affected his body, causing him to involuntarily retreat a little. However, he wasn't injured. With the Kunwa Golden Pagoda in hand, his defensive power was stronger than his offensive means by a few degrees. Even the Essence Soul attack that was originally the greatest threat was no longer a weakness. It's impolite not to reciprocate. It should be my turn next, right? Ziyue withstood 3 attacks, but his face was smiling. He opened his palm, and a long staff appeared in his hand. Then rumble. He directly used the secret technique of the physical body, the heaven-shocking 3 staffs. 1 staff broke the sky, 1 staff shattered the earth, and 1 staff crushed everything. 3 stick shadows charged towards the 3 demon masters respectively. Among them was the strongest saber demon master who had reached the late stage of the spirit severing stage. This saber demon master was an expert at the late stage of the spirit severing stage. His original body was a creature called the saber mantis. His two arms were like long knives, and when they swept out, they could disintegrate everything. He was extremely strong, and in the entire extraterrestrial demon world, he could be ranked in the top 5. However, when it looked at by Ziu's rod shadow, its gaze became dazed as if it had discovered endless beauty. Then, a wave of astonishment that came from the depths of its soul surfaced in its heart, and it instinctively wanted to react. However, all of this was too late. He only had time to raise his sickle-like arms. Then, his entire figure was smashed down by the staff shadows. Poof! He was crushed in a meat paste and completely annihilated. Poof! Poof! Almost at the same time, the other 2 demon masters at the mid-stage of the Essence Soul realm followed in their footsteps and were annihilated. Chapter 854. This was the power of the heaven-startling 3 rod strikes. With Ziu's power at the peak of the primordial soul realm, the power of the heaven-startling 3 rod strikes had reached the peak of the spirit-severing realm. This power was too terrifying and exceeded the limits of what the Saber Demon Master and the others could bear. Naturally, it could kill them easily. Moreover, because of the sudden incident, the Saber Demon Master and the 10 Luminaries Demon Master had both come here with their avatars. Now that they had died, their avatars were naturally destroyed as well. The number of spirit power has reached 1.5 billion again. This speed of accumulating spirit power is really shocking. I reckon that it won't be long before my spirit power reaches 2 to 3 billion. By then, I can even repair the heaven-startling single rod strike, the last rod of the heaven-startling rod strike. Ziu glanced at the number of spirit power and was looking forward to it. Then, he revealed a look of regret. It's a pity that there are still 2 demon masters who have their avatars outside and manage to escape. Otherwise, my soul energy would have definitely increased by a large margin again, reaching more than 2 billion. At this time, he only hated that he did not have the ability to curse the avatars of the demon masters from a distance through fate and karma. Otherwise, his spirit power would have increased by a lot. Fortunately, after they died, there are still many spoils of war. It's not a loss. Then, he looked at the spoils of war after killing the 5 demon masters. There were a total of 7 demonic treasures. 3 of them were middle-grade demonic treasures, and 4 were inferior-grade demonic treasures. The inferior-grade demonic treasures were of the same value as the inferior-grade spirit treasures, while the middle-grade demonic treasures were of the same value as the middle-grade spirit treasures. The spoils of war this time were more than 20 million supreme-grade spirit stones. In fact, treasures like the spirit treasures and demonic treasures were usually priceless. Even if there were so many supreme-grade spirit stones, they could not be exchanged for spirit treasures or demonic treasures of the same value. Even the super forces of the astral world, as powerful as the heavenly spirit sect and the nature sect, did not have more than 5 spirit treasures. Although the Dragon Clan, a top ancient clan, had many spirit treasures, they did not have more than 10. However, in Ziu's hands, including the 7 he had obtained this time, the 2 he had obtained from killing the Zhaoke Demon Master, and the superior-grade Kuma Golden Pagoda, he had a total of 10. 10 spirit treasures. By Ziu was also astonished and stunned. Who would have thought that he would unknowingly control such a huge fortune? But very soon, a calm expression appeared on his face. Although he was overjoyed to have obtained so many demonic treasures, he couldn't refine them in a short amount of time. He couldn't use them, so he could only put them away for now. What happens next? Then, Ziu's face revealed a trace of hesitation. Now, I've already been targeted by the will of the great Tao of the entire extraterritorial devil world. The 3rd divine punishment has descended, and I'm the enemy of the entire world. If he continued to stay in this world, the danger level would rise infinitely. This time, the will of the great Tao was able to directly connect 5 demon master level powerhouses to attack me. Next time, there would definitely be more and stronger demon masters descending. But now, the number of my spirit energy has already reached 5 billion points. I just need to add another billion points to repair the heaven-shocking staff strike. If I have another 56 billion points, I can upgrade this staff technique to perfection. The perfection level of the heaven-shocking staff strike will definitely allow my strength to soar greatly again. The temptation is great. After discovering the terrifying power of the heaven-shocking 3 staff strikes, he was naturally very curious and yearned for the cultivation method of the heaven-shocking staff strike, which was also the strongest move of this secret technique. Forget it. If I'm in the astral world, how long will it take for me to obtain a billion spirit energy? But in this extraterritorial devil world, it's only a matter of 1 or 2 demon dens. Even if there are some risks, compared to the increase in strength, it's nothing. Not to mention, it's not like I don't have any trump cards. Even if the Supreme Demon and the 10,000 Hands Demon at the peak of the Spirit Severing stage descend, I still have ways to escape. Ziyue's face hardened. As the saying went, wealth comes from danger. Even if it was somewhat risky, he still wanted to give it a try. Then, he did not stay where he was. His figure flashed, and he directly used 1,000 miles in an instant, rushing directly from the depths of the void to the next demon Denver. He was very clear that there was definitely not much time left for him now. He had to rush to the next demon den as soon as possible and obtain more spirit energy as soon as possible. Therefore, he was not stingy with the consumption of his spirit energy at all. He was as fast as lightning, and he was even somewhat unscrupulous. Wherever his figure passed, a clear white mark could be seen on the distant horizon. And just as Ziyue killed the demonic saber master and other powerhouses one after another and planned to continue to obtain more spirit energy, the will of the great path of the extraterritorial devil world was also moving. The will of the great path of the extraterritorial devil world enveloped the entire extraterritorial devil world. Generally speaking, it was impossible for it to form self-consciousness and transmit information to the outside world. But at this moment, under the strong sense of danger, it immediately produced a kind of emergency measure. Then, an incomparably clear and solemn voice of the great path was transmitted to the ears of all powerhouses above the Demon King level in the extraterritorial devil world. The outer demons are attacking. Their strength is terrifying and has the power to destroy the world. All demon world powerhouses quickly return to your positions. Gather the power of the world and kill the demons. The voice of the great path was vast and mighty, containing a supreme power of suppression. It also shocked countless powerhouses everywhere in the extraterritorial devil world. The will of the great path has awakened. If I remember correctly, the will of the great path has only awakened 7 times in the millions of years of our extraterritorial devil world. This is the 8th time. The outer demons are attacking. What kind of outer demons are they? How strong are they? How many powerhouses are there in total? Kill demons? What kind of demons need the power of our world to kill? It was also at this moment that countless Demon King and Demon Master level powerhouses in various parts of the extraterritorial devil world also extended their consciousness and used ultra-long distance voice transmission Dharma treasures to communicate. They were all shocked. This outer demon is actually a powerhouse from the astral world who crossed over. At this moment, a tired and hoarse voice came from the ultra-long distance transmission Dharma treasure. It was as if he had just experienced a great battle and was seriously injured. It made people clearly feel the weakness in the other party's voice. That's right, there's only one outer demon. However, his strength is extremely, extremely powerful, far beyond our imagination. Soon after, another voice came from the ultra-long distance transmission Dharma treasure. The voice was also tired and hoarse, seeming a little weak. These 2 voices were the 2 mid-stage spirit, severing stage demon masters who had their true bodies killed by Ziyue in the previous battle. Only their clones were lucky enough to escape. At this moment, they had also received a message from the will of the Great Path. Only then did they use the ultra-long distance transmission Dharma treasure to warn and remind the other powerhouses. The powerhouses of the astral world crossed over. Their strength is beyond imagination. How is this possible? That astral world is less than 10% of our extraterritorial devil world size. The number and strength of powerhouses are far inferior to our devil worlds. It's even unknown whether there are demon master level powerhouses in the astral world. How could a powerhouse suddenly appear and make the will of the Great Path issue such a world-ending warning? A demon master level powerhouse questioned. As far as I know, the world level of that astral world is far inferior to our devil world. Under the restrictions of the Great Path, once someone breaks through to the demon master level, they won't be able to stay for long and will be expelled by the Great Path directly into the endless starry sky. Could it be that this powerhouse is the return of a former demon master level powerhouse? However, it's not so easy for such a powerhouse to enter our devil world. Not to mention the Great Path barrier outside the devil world. We should have sensed it when such a powerhouse enters the devil world. Why didn't we hear about it before? There were also powerhouses who made guesses, but they were somewhat puzzled, because his strength is only at the Demon Master level. Peak Demon Master level. The weak voice from before spoke once again. What? Only at the Demon Master level. Does the will of the Great Path think that we're too idle? An astral world cultivator who's only at the peak Demon Master level actually caused such a big commotion? The group of extraterrestrial demon powerhouses was instantly shocked and furious, as if they were offended. Naturally, it can't be an ordinary peak demon master. Do you know why our voices are so weak and hoarse? It's precisely because we encountered this astral world powerhouse before, and then his true body was killed by him. What? You encountered that outer demon just now, and he was killed by them? If I remember correctly, you're all middle-level demon master powerhouses? Could that outer demon be one of those 1 in 10,000 existences that can kill immortals, demon kings, and demon masters? The group of powerhouses were all shocked. Peak demon master level, killing a demon master in adversity. Not to mention the astral world. Even in the extraterrestrial demon world, this was almost impossible. Only one would appear in 10,000 years, tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. What's more, this outer demon had killed a middle-level demon lord-level powerhouse in adversity. And there were 2 of them. It's not just us. Saber Enlightenment Demon Master and 10 Brilliance Demon Master also participated in the encirclement of this astral world outer demon with us. There were a total of 5 Demon Master powerhouses, and the 2 of us were the weakest. In the end, we were all quickly killed by that outer demon. Because we left our doppelgangers in the demon's den, we were lucky enough to escape. But Saber Enlightenment Demon Master and 10 Brilliance Demon Master probably both had their doppelgangers and true bodies involved in the encirclement and completely died. Soon, one of the demon masters whose true body had died said faintly, "This outer demon's true combat strength has definitely reached the peak of the demon master level, comparable to the sovereign demon and 10,000 hands demon." Another demon master, whose true body had perished, also spoke up. All of a sudden, there was silence in the ultra-long-distance communication magic treasure. Everyone was scared stiff. Only then did they understand why the Great Tao would send out a world-ending warning. How terrifying was a peak demon master level powerhouse. Once they thought of the sovereign demon and 10,000 hands demon, they understood. That was definitely a taboo level existence. This point could be seen from the fact that they were only called demon masters, and those 2 were called heavenly demons. All right, everyone, get ready to kill the demons. Our demon world can't tolerate the existence and destruction of outer demons. Right at this moment, a calm and unhurried voice rang out in a leisurely manner. In an instant, everyone couldn't help but feel refreshed as they hurriedly replied respectfully, "Yes, Lord Heavenly Demon, your orders. We're already gathering people. And kill the demons." The calm voice sounded again, and then the voice in the ultra-long-distance communication Dharma treasure completely fell silent. Obviously, this voice came from one of the two taboo-level powerhouses of the extraterritorial demon world, the 10,000 Hands demon at the peak of the spirit-severing realm. This demon's den is a little small after all. It actually only increased my soul energy by 500 million points. Now, the number of soul energy has only reached 2 billion. It's still quite a bit away from the 56 billion points needed to repair the heaven-shocking staff. Ziyue soon found another demon's den. After destroying it easily, he lamented. Then, Ziyue was about to continue moving when he suddenly felt a fluctuation in the surrounding space. Immediately after, he saw figures quickly teleporting over from the void. Buzz, buzz, buzz. After the first spatial fluctuation was transmitted, it seemed to have started a chain reaction. The heaven and earth shook continuously, and then there were more spatial fluctuations in the surroundings, and then there were more experts stepping in. There were more than 100 of these experts. Among them, the weakest was a demon lord powerhouse comparable to the primordial soul realm, and there were even 3 experts whose strength had reached the demon master level. Although they were only at the early stage of the demon lord realm, which was equivalent to the early stage of the spirit-severing realm, with the cooperation of more than 100 demon lords, they could still erupt with terrifying power. However, when they appeared, they didn't attack immediately. Instead, they opened their own grotto heaven treasures. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void vibrated, and then there were demon commanders and demon generals appearing around them. Suddenly, there were tens of thousands of experts densely packed in this heaven and earth. The moment they appeared, they formed a formation and cooperated with the demon lords, or demon lords that they followed to form a battle formation. As if they had cooperated millions of times, in the blink of an eye, their battle formation was formed, and their strength and aura soared rapidly. Hurry up and kill the demon. Kill the demon. Kill the demon. Kill the demon. Shouts that seemed to be able to break the heavens were heard, and then countless demon lords attacked at the same time. Kill the demon? Ziyue raised his eyebrows in surprise. He didn't expect that in the eyes of these demon lords, he would become a demon. However, after the initial surprise, his face was soon filled with excitement and surprise. These extraterritorial demon experts had come at the right time. He originally planned to continue searching for demons' dens to increase his soul power as soon as possible, but he didn't expect them to come knocking on his door. In particular, he found that although there were many of these demon lords, their strength was generally not considered strong. 3 demon lords at the early stage couldn't do anything to him. Chapter 855. As for the remaining demon king-level otherworldly demons, even with the help of countless demon generals and demon commanders, their strength had increased to a certain extent. However, the absolute difference in strength could not be made up for by numbers. Ziyue's expression did not change, but he also made a move at the first moment. A sword pierced through the air, rushing out like a stream of light. An early-stage demon master had just rushed out of the overlapping space, and before he could react, he was already twisted by the sword light and completely annihilated. It was just a pity that this early-stage demon king had received the news in advance and did not descend together with his clone. Therefore, even if his true body died, there was still a clone that survived and did not completely die. Naturally, Ziyue did not obtain any soul energy benefits. However, he did not mind. After killing a demon master with a sword, he stretched out his hand, and the blood-smelting demon staff appeared in his hand. Then he swung it fiercely and directly used the heaven-startling 3 staff strikes of the heaven-startling staff technique. Rumble. The 3 staff shadows immediately separated. One staff rose into the air, one landed on the ground, and the last staff was fixed in the middle, stirring up the wind and clouds. Chi-chi-chi. The void trembled, and in an instant it collapsed and shattered, turning into incomparably fine spatial cracks. Buzz, buzz, buzz. No. Innumerable extraterrestrial demons roared furiously, and they used all their means to defend themselves. Especially those essence soul realm powerhouses, with the help of countless demon generals and demon commanders, their strength could be greatly increased. If there were several Demon King-level powerhouses comparable to the Essence Soul realm joining forces to form a formation, they could even be on par with a Demon Master. Even if it was only at the weakest initial stage of the Demon Lord realm, it was already considered a considerable battle force. However, no matter how they struggled, used all their means, and even stimulated their potential and used supreme secret treasures when Ziyue's attack landed, the moment the shattered space affected them, they turned into dust. It was meaningless, like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Even a Demon Master equivalent to the late-stage Spirit Severing stage could not withstand the power of Ziyue's staff, let alone them. After the heaven-shocking 3-staff strikes, the earth cracked, mountains and rivers shattered, and countless volcanoes erupted. Heaven and earth turned into nothingness. The extraterrestrial demons that had covered the entire void just a moment ago had all perished, except for a small number in the outer regions that had managed to escape. Among them, there were even those 3 true Demon Master-level powerhouses. Even though they had left their clones in their lairs, the death of their true bodies was still a heavy blow to them. Not to mention, the treasures they carried with them had all fallen into by Ziyue's hands at that moment. Isn't this outer demon's strength too terrifying? 3 great demon masters and over 100 demon kings attacked together. But in the end, not only were we unable to do anything to the other party, we were instead easily killed by the other party's attacks, almost completely annihilated. Rumor has it that this outer devil's strength is astounding. It almost has the strength of a peak devil master, a supreme devil, and a 10,000 hands devil. He didn't believe it first, but now it seemed that even if this external demon's strength wasn't as strong as the 2 sky demons, it wasn't far off. Is it really possible for us to deal with such a terrifying existence? The group of extraterrestrial demons was so frightened that they even forgot to run away immediately. Perhaps it wasn't that they forgot to run away, but that they understood that in front of a terrifying existence like Ziyue, if he really wanted to attack them, they wouldn't be able to escape even if they used all their means. Although it's a pity that we didn't manage to kill them completely, we got another 3 inferior-grade demon treasures. This trip wasn't in vain. Ziyue didn't care about the remaining extraterrestrial demons. He glanced at the combat weapons left behind by the 3 Demon Master-level powerhouses and kept them with a wave of his hand. It's a pity that I don't have the means to cut the karmic and karmic path and kill powerhouses from a super long distance. Otherwise, these 3 Demon Master-level powerhouses would at least be able to increase my soul energy by 1 billion points. Ziyue sighed, but he wasn't disappointed. This was because the number of soul energy on his attribute panel wasn't small. 9 billion points. My soul energy has already reached 9 billion points. If I remember correctly, my previous soul energy count had just reached 2 billion points. But this time, it almost doubled the amount of my soul energy. Ziyue was pleasantly surprised. Although he had lost the soul energy of the 3 Demon Master-level powerhouses, the increase in soul energy this time was already enough to satisfy him. 9 billion soul energy is quite a lot. At least, it's enough for me to deduce the incomplete last strike of the Heaven Startling Staff technique. Long ago, Ziyue was very clear about the extraordinariness of this Heaven Startling Staff technique. Just the power of the Heaven Startling 9 strikes was comparable to supreme Dao techniques. The 3 strikes of the Heaven Startling Staff technique was comparable to the top unique skill created by a powerhouse in the Spirit Severing stage. Then what about the last strike of the Heaven Startling Staff technique, the Heaven Startling Staff technique? Was it the Path Integration stage that surpassed the Spirit Severing stage? Thinking of this, he was secretly excited and quickly sank his mind into the attribute panel. Spend 56 billion soul energy to complete the last strike of the Heaven Startling Staff technique, the Heaven Startling Staff technique. Repair. Ziyue quickly chose to repair it. In an instant, the soul energy on his attribute panel was greatly reduced. At the same time, the cultivation method of the Heaven Startling Staff technique immediately appeared in his mind. The entire method of operating the Heaven Starling Staff technique seemed simple, as if the Great Tao was simple. It was just one strike, and only one strike. When the staff was struck out, it seemed to contain the endless universe and the mysteries of heaven and earth. After being struck out, it could create new life and also destroy everything. But the more he pondered and the more he began to cultivate, the more he could discover the endless mysteries contained in this Heaven Starling Staff technique. All kinds of laws related to the manifestation of the great Tao of heaven and earth, as well as the operating principles of countless cultivation mysteries. In this way, it showed the complexity of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Is this the Heaven Starling Staff technique? It's too shocking and too exquisite. It seems to contain the supreme great Tao, all the mysteries of the universe, and the principles of heaven and earth. If I didn't have the attribute panel and just pondered and cultivated on my own, I reckon that even if I spent thousands or tens of thousands of years, it would be difficult for me to pry into the true mystery of it and cultivate it to the realm of greater mastery and perfection. Ziyue exclaimed, but he also felt even more fortunate. He was glad that he had the attribute panel, which could save him endless cultivation time. If he didn't have the attribute panel, he reckoned that he would still be trapped in the ancient desolate region at this time, and then struggle bitterly in the apocalyptic calamity of the invasion of the extraterritorial demon world. Perhaps he would have fallen in an unknown barren mountain and turned into a cup of yellow soil. Chapter 856. Just as Ziyue was marveling at the ingenuity of the heavenly staff strike and the power of his attribute panel, countless overlapping spaces appeared in the void around him once again. They were densely packed and covered the entire world in a few steps. Then, as the extraterrestrial demons stepped out one by one, there were many of these extraterrestrial demons, and they came in all shapes and sizes. Their auras were even more astonishing. The moment they appeared, they all took out their space treasures and flung them slightly. Countless demon soldiers, demon generals, and demon commanders lined up neatly around them and quickly formed a formation. 1 demon king, 10 demon commanders, 100 demon generals, 10,000 demon soldiers. They could directly form the classic battle formation of the extraterrestrial demon world, the Great 10,000 Demon Formation. With the help of this Great 10,000 Demon Formation, the power of all the extraterrestrial demons could be completely integrated almost immediately. Under the control of the Demon King level powerhouses, at least 80% of the formation's power could be unleashed. It could at least increase the power of the Demon King level powerhouses by 1 or 2 notches. At the initial Demon King level, one could unleash the power of the intermediate Demon King level or even the advanced Demon King level. At the advanced Demon King level, one could unleash the power of the peak Demon King level or the extreme Demon King level. If one was at the peak primordial soul level, one could even unleash the power of a weak demon master. Most importantly, the amplification effect of the Great 10,000 Demon Formation was still effective even for demon masters. It could be recombined, formed in pairs, and connected with several other formations. As for how much power one could unleash with the help of such a formation, it all depended on the control of the powerhouses who were in charge of the formation. The stronger one was, the better one's control. Naturally, the power that could be unleashed would be even more terrifying. At this moment, the powerhouses who had crossed over from various parts of the extraterrestrial demon world with the help of the overlapping spaces seemed to have long predicted what they were about to face. All of them immediately began to line up and form the Great 10,000 Demon Formation. Tens of thousands of Demon King level powerhouses were equivalent to tens of thousands of Great 10,000 Demon Formations. In addition, there were many Demon Master level powerhouses who also formed the Great 10,000 Demon Formation. Such power and such changes could be said to be shocking. The entire world seemed to be unable to withstand the pressure of such shocking power. It became thick and solidified, as if it would collapse and shatter at any time. Enemies of the entire world? Is this what it means to be enemies of the entire world? I originally thought that I was only stirring up a storm in a region, and no matter how unbridled I was, it wouldn't cause too much of a change. I didn't expect that it would actually cause an uproar among almost all the experts in the entire extraterritorial devil world, causing them to move out one after another. Ziyue was stunned. They were even more frightened. If there were hundreds of Devil King-level powerhouses, he would not be too concerned, because his strength was enough to deal with it. However, what appeared in front of him right now were tens of thousands of Demon King-level powerhouses. Not to mention, there were more than 10 Demon Master-level powerhouses among them. What did he do to deserve this? How could it attract so many experts to descend at the same time? Obviously, if the previous wave of attacks was only a test by the many experts of the extraterritorial devil world, then this was the final attack. At this moment, Ziyue's sense of crisis had reached its peak. He knew very well that this was the most dangerous moment for him. There was a risk of dying at any moment. Attack. Kill the demon. Grim demon. Grim demon. Then, a clear and cold voice sounded. A terrifying existence with countless tentacles on its body rushed out randomly and attacked Ziyue at the first moment. Countless tentacles seemed to be waving at the same time at this moment, each striking out a series of seals. Randomly, a red light rushed towards Ziyue like a startled swan. Not good. Could this be the two strongest peak demon master level powerhouses in the extraterritorial devil world? The 10,000 Hands Heavenly Demon? Ziyue's expression changed. He didn't expect that the two strongest peak demon master level powerhouses in the extraterritorial devil world would actually make a move so quickly. In his opinion, shouldn't the most powerful existences in the world appear at the very end? Why did they descend personally after the first wave of probing and attack him directly? Moreover, the moment they attacked, they used their ultimate move. The terrifying power crushed, making one have no doubt about the terrifying extent of its power. The peak of the Spirit Severing Realm. This attack was definitely at the peak of the Spirit Severing Realm. Moreover, it was considered powerful among the peak of the Spirit Severing Realm. Heaven-shocking 3-rod strikes. Ziyue was shocked in his heart. Without thinking, he quickly executed the heaven-shocking 3-rod strikes. Rumble. Ziyue's heaven-shocking 3-rod strikes was similarly terrifying, reaching the peak of the Spirit Severing Realm. At this moment, he threw it out and quickly collided with the other party's attack. When the first rod landed, the red light converged slightly as if it had encountered an obstruction. However, it still destroyed the rod shadow, like a hot knife through butter. Then, the second rod shadow rolled down. The red light rippled and spread out in all directions. However, the power contained in the red light was too strong. It seemed to be able to destroy everything and quickly shattered the second rod shadow. It wasn't until the third rod rushed out that this attack was completely dispersed and lost its effect. However, at this moment, the other Demon Master level powerhouses, as well as the Demon King level powerhouses who had formed the 10,000 Demons formation, all moved out and attacked him. Countless attacks seemed to be able to shatter the sky and reset the universe. Wherever the attacks passed, layers of space would shatter. Damn it! Ziyue's expression changed. He really felt the pressure. His figure flashed continuously, moving rapidly in the void at the speed of 1,000 miles in an instant. The flying swords in his body were used continuously, turning into streaks of light that shattered the attacks. However, this time, Ziyue encountered too many enemies. The attacks landed at the same time. Material attacks, primordial spirit attacks, Dharma treasure attacks, talisman attacks, and even all kinds of mysterious curses. They were all launched and blasted toward him. Even though Ziyue's speed was extremely fast, it was as if he was moving through the depths of the void. However, there were still attacks that landed on the Tower of Endless Kuin and the True Dragon Mysterious Armor technique. They were transmitted to Ziyue's body, causing his figure to become unstable, and he couldn't help but suffer more attacks. This can't go on. Once I'm entangled, no matter how strong I am, it'll be difficult to resist the siege of so many powerhouses. Ziyue's heart turned cold, and he quickly looked at the attribute panel. Time reversal 1 second. Time acceleration 10 seconds. He directly used the power of time reversal to go back 1 second and dodge some relatively powerful and terrifying attacks. Then, he used the power of time acceleration to explode with even faster speed and strength to dodge or counterattack the enemy. Chapter 857. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the number and power of the attacks that landed on Ziyue were greatly reduced. Even though the attacks were too dense and there were inevitably many attacks that landed on his body, they were much smaller than before he used time reversal. At least, the attacks that landed on his body no longer posed a threat to him after being blocked and defended by the Kunwa Golden Pagoda and True Dragon Armor technique. Then, under the effect of time acceleration, he traversed the void at a speed several times faster than before and used various attack techniques more frequently. Universe in the Sleeve, 5 Emperors Heaven Sealing Sword, Great Forbidden Spirit Technique, Great Magnetic Divine Light, Great Magnetic Slash, Heart Sword Technique. Various means were displayed by him in an extremely short period of time. They landed around him, either blocking, defending, or countering attacks with attacks. He dealt with the various attacks, and from time to time, he could even launch a counterattack. As the sword light flashed past, 1 or 2 Devil King level experts who had formed the Myriad Demons formation were completely destroyed. However, this time, Ziyue was facing too many experts. There was even the 10,000 Hands Heavenly Demon, who was at the peak of the Spirit Severing stage. The 10,000 Hands Heavenly Demon's techniques were shocking. Its flying speed, reaction speed, attack strength, and use of the great Tao of heaven and earth, all aspects surpassed Ziyue by a lot. Even if Ziyue borrowed the power of time acceleration, he could only be slightly better than it in terms of speed. However, in terms of attack strength and use of the great Tao of heaven and earth, the other party crushed him. Every attack made Ziyue feel very uncomfortable. In addition, the attacks of the other Demon King level experts and the Demon King level experts that formed the Myriad Demon formation were interfering. Ziyue often had to borrow the power of time reversal to be able to dodge at the critical moment, so as not to suffer irreparable injuries. Therefore, even if Ziyue's attacks could kill some extraterrestrial demons from time to time, under the use of time reversal, time acceleration, and recovery of Yuan Qi to maintain high-intensity attacks and defenses, his soul technique was slowly decreasing. This can't go on. Who knows how many experts there are in the entire extraterrestrial demon world? At least, the supreme demon that appeared in the astral realm 10,000 years ago has not appeared yet. If he attacks together with me, even if I use all my means, I probably won't be able to escape this calamity. Ziyue's mind was also flashing wildly as he attacked. He was very clear about his strength and means. At most, he was at the late stage of the Spirit Severing realm. It was only because he had mastered the heaven-shocking 3-rod strikes and used this supreme secret skill of the Spirit Severing realm that he could barely unleash the combat strength comparable to the peak of the Spirit Severing realm. Then, with the help of the time acceleration and time reversal powers on the attribute panel, he was barely able to withstand the endless waves of attacks and fend off the endless attacks from the extraterrestrial demons. But it didn't last. It was like a taut bowstring. Once it exceeded a certain point, it would definitely snap. At this moment, he was at the critical point. If there were another 3 to 5 experts in the middle and late stages of the Spirit Severing stage besieging him, or if the supreme heavenly demon descended and the attack strength exceeded his resistance limit, then he would really be in danger. Not to mention, his soul power was still rapidly decreasing. As for escaping, in a situation where he was surrounded by enemies, there was no way for him to retreat. The shattering void also hindered his footsteps. I have to do something. Ziyue once again used the power of time reversal. After dodging a wave of heavy attacks, his gaze once again swept across the attribute panel. Then, his gaze landed on the heaven-shocking 1-rod strike that had been repaired by him and displayed the words beginner. Now, his immortal technique realm had already reached the peak of the primordial soul realm. There was no way to improve it. Among all his methods, only this heaven-shocking one-rod strike could still be improved because he had just repaired it with the help of the attribute panel. The heaven-shocking 3-rod strikes can allow me to unleash combat strength comparable to the peak of the spirit's severing realm. This heaven-shocking 1-rod strike must be even stronger. Although my soul power is not enough to raise it to perfection, is the only way I can think of to break the situation. Ziyue's eyes flickered. Under the crazy attacks of many extraterrestrial demons, he did not have time to hesitate. Consume 640 million soul power points to raise the heaven-shocking 1-rod strike from beginner to small mastery. Previously, I originally had 4 billion soul power points. Repairing the heaven-shocking 1-rod strike to perfection cost 56 billion soul power points. I should have been left with 45 billion soul power points. In the end, because of this battle, my soul power points have been constantly depleted. Now, my soul power points are only 70 billion soul power points. In this way, my soul power points are only enough to raise the heaven-shocking 1-rod strike from beginner to small mastery. Is it not enough? Ziyue had long been aware that the amount of soul power needed to improve the heaven-shocking 1-rod strike was not small. However, he did not expect that just from beginner to small mastery, he would need to spend 600 million soul power points. However, at this point, he did not have time to think too much. Without hesitation, he chose to upgrade. Upgrade! In an instant, Ziyue felt that countless cultivation methods, cultivation experiences, various mysterious uses of the rod strike, and even the understanding of the great way of heaven and earth and the ultimate truth of heaven and earth appeared in his mind. In contrast, he seemed to have experienced hundreds or thousands of years of continuous cultivation in a short period of time. He directly raised the heaven-shocking 1-rod strike to small mastery. The heaven-shocking 1-rod strike has reached small mastery. Ziyue instantly consumed this wave of upgrade and instinctively displayed the rod strike. The long rod was thrown out, and it followed a special trajectory in the dark. Buzz! Heaven and earth shook. As the wind and clouds changed color, the whole world seemed to have frozen at this moment. Great Way Coercion. With this strike, Ziyue actually unleashed the Great Way Coercion, causing any attack to bow down to this strike. When any expert looked at this strike, they felt a kind of reverence that came from the bottom of their hearts and felt their own insignificance. What kind of terrifying existence is this? His realm is not high, but his attack power is so terrifying. And now, he actually displayed such a shocking strike. Even the 10,000 Hands Heavenly Demon, who had been calm all this time, showed a rare solemn expression on his face. The pressure of the Great Path was the result of a high-level expert's understanding of the laws of heaven and earth, as well as the mysterious application of the rules of the universe, reaching an extremely profound level. It could only be displayed when the expert was able to crush the opponent's realm. In other words, in terms of understanding of the Great Way, Ziyue surpassed the 10,000 Hands Heavenly Demon. The 10,000 Hands Heavenly Demon was a terrifying existence at the peak of the spirit's severing stage. His realm was extremely high, and his understanding of the Great Way of heaven and earth was also extremely profound. In his opinion, only the Supreme Heavenly Demon, who had reached the peak of the spirit's severing stage and was only half a step away from the path integration stage, could possibly suppress him with the Great Way Coercion. How could others be able to do it? Not to mention, Ziyue's immortal technique realm was several levels lower than his. The 10,000 Hands Heavenly Demon was shocked and began to doubt his life. In the face of this strike, which formed a Great Way Coercion on him, he was extremely fearful, and a sense of fear arose in his heart. He instinctively shot out a dark light, but he could not help but retreat frantically. The strength of this external demon is too strong, isn't it? So many of us attack together, but we still can't do anything to him? Even the 10,000 Hands Heavenly Demon couldn't completely suppress him. Are we really his match? Especially at this moment, he executed such an attack that's sufficient to crush us into smithereens in terms of cultivation. At this moment, as the 10,000 Hands heavenly demon retreated rapidly, the other heavenly demons' faces were also filled with despair. They had only felt this kind of great way coercion when facing those experts who were far superior to them in terms of realm. However, even if it was an attack from those who were originally at an extremely high realm, in front of this brilliant great way coercion, it was so insignificant that it was almost negligible. It was not worth mentioning. They suddenly realized that the power of this strike had surpassed their front line of defense. When they saw that even the 10,000 Hands heavenly demon could not help but retreat, the string in their hearts almost collapsed in an instant. This strike is indeed mysterious. Ziyue's eyes lit up when he swung his dark light rod. Then, without hesitation, he also retreated and quickly rushed in the direction of the 10,000 Hands heavenly demon. Heart Sword Technique, Primordial Magnet Divine Light, 9 Thunder God-Destroying Seal, Heaven-Shocking 3 Strikes. All kinds of offensive techniques were quickly displayed under the time acceleration. At this moment, Ziyue's Heaven-Shocking Dark Light rod collided with the dark light rod that the 10,000 Hands heavenly demon had shot out. Pust! After a soft and crisp sound, the profound light shattered by Ziyue's staff shadow as easily as crushing dry weeds. Then, the great way coercion that had originally shrouded the heavens and the earth and made countless heavenly demons tremble in fear dissipated. Instantly, all the heavenly demons' faces were filled with doubt. Was the power of this strike so weak? Could the great way coercion and the terrifying momentum be fake? Even though they were relaxed, they instinctively felt that something was wrong. Oh no! The 10,000 Hands heavenly demon's face changed, and its originally retreating figure quickly rushed out. After seeing Ziyue's dark light rod strike, he quickly rushed in another direction and attacked the group of heavenly demons crazily. Very soon, they also realized this and were all shocked and angry. They had been fooled. Ziyue's strike might be of an extremely high level, but the actual power of the attack was many times weaker than they had imagined. This attack was nothing more than a bluff. The Heaven-Shocking Dark Light Rod is definitely an offensive technique that has surpassed the Spirit-Severing stage and reached the Tao Integration stage. However, my mastery of this Dark Light Rod technique is still very shallow, and I have only raised it to the initial level with the help of the attribute panel. In addition, my immortal technique realm is slightly low, and it is difficult for me to maintain my primordial energy. Naturally, it is difficult for me to unleash 1/10,000th of its true power. Therefore, although this strike is shocking and the great way coercion is shocking, its actual power is far inferior to the heaven-shocking 3 strikes of the Dark Light Rod technique at the perfect level. It is only comparable to my Heart Sword technique, which is at the late stage of the Spirit-Severing stage. Naturally, it will be easily crushed by the 10,000 Hands heavenly demon's attack. As a matter of fact, Bai Ziyue had already expected this. He was very clear that although the heaven-shocking Dark Light Rod technique was extremely mysterious, his lack of strength and his cultivation of this technique was only at the initial level. Obviously, it was difficult for him to exert its power that could crush everything. Therefore, he did not expect any results from this strike at all. He just borrowed the momentum of this strike and the 10,000 Hands heavenly demon's fear of this strike to quickly escape from its entanglement and madly attack in one direction. His fundamental purpose was actually to obtain soul energy. Only by obtaining as much soul energy as possible could he raise the level of the heaven-shocking Dark Light Rod technique. In this way, his strength could be improved, and he could quickly break the deadlock and escape from the fatal attack. Die! 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 Ziyue crazily attacked one after another. The terrifying power of the attack was like the Milky Way of the 9 heavens, like endless stars descending, directly surging in the direction of an extraterritorial demon. Among these extraterritorial demons, there was relatively few demon Lord Realm experts. However, there were many demon lord realm existences who formed the myriad demon formation. In the face of Ziyue's attack, it was impossible for them to resist. Puff, puff, puff. In just an instant, the myriad demon formation was quickly shattered. Large numbers of extraterritorial demons were crushed and quickly minced into meat paste by the attacks. There was even a group of extraterritorial demons that were swept by the Nine Thunder God-destroying seal. They were relatively lucky, and their physical bodies were very intact. But without a sound, their souls and souls were directly obliterated, and they perished completely. One by one, they quickly fell from the void to the ground. In a short period of time, Ziyue crazily attacked and killed a large number of extraterritorial demons. Chance! Seeing that more than half of the space in front of him was suddenly empty, Ziyue's eyes couldn't help but brighten. He quickly rushed forward, wanting to use this opportunity to escape the encirclement. However, there were too many extraterritorial demons in this world. Even though a large area around him was suddenly empty, groups of extraterritorial demons soon attacked and shattered the void in front of Ziyue, preventing him from using the escape technique. They quickly rushed up and cut off Ziyue's opportunity to escape. At the same time, the 10,000 Hands Heavenly Devil reacted. It threw out a series of seals, sealing by Ziyue from all directions, making it impossible for him to escape. As expected, there are too many extraterritorial demons. If I don't hurt them, it will be difficult for me to escape. Ziyue sighed secretly, but he wasn't disappointed. Instead, his eyes were extremely bright. This was because this wave of attacks had increased the number of his soul power by a lot. It directly increased from the original 400 million soul power to 1.8 billion soul power. 1.8 billion soul power. Although it's not enough to upgrade the heaven-startling rod to perfection, it's enough to upgrade this rod technique to greater mastery. Ziyue had already calculated in his heart and was looking forward to it. Without any hesitation, his gaze fell on the attribute panel again. Spend 1.28 billion soul power to upgrade the heaven-startling rod from minor mastery to greater mastery. Upgrade. Chapter 858. Chi Chi Chi. A total of 1.28 billion points of soul energy disappeared and turned into countless cultivation experiences and understandings of the sky, startling staff strike. This allowed by Ziyue's understanding and cultivation of the sky startling staff strike to reach an extremely profound level in a short amount of time. This was especially true for the heaven-shocking staff strike. It was incomparably complicated, yet it was incomparably compatible with the Great Way. It seemed to be supported by the profound meanings of the universe, and it was no longer a secret in his eyes. At the same time, he seemed to have gone through thousands of years of tireless cultivation. He had completely integrated the heaven-shocking staff strike into his physical memory. The thousands of years of cultivation had made his physical strength soar. The heaven-shocking staff strike has reached the advanced level by Ziyue sensed the changes in his body and instantly understood what was going on. Instinctively, he also felt that his strength had increased. This kind of improvement was not an improvement in cultivation level, but a kind of improvement in physical strength, understanding of the great Tao, and attack power. Even though he had yet to truly unleash this staff technique, he believed that if he were to use this staff technique, it would definitely be earth-shattering and heaven-shattering. Moreover, as his understanding of the laws of heaven and earth and the mysteries of the universe deepened, Ziyue could also sense some flaws in his previous attacks. This kind of flaw was actually flawless at the primordial spirit realm, or even at the spirit severing realm. At the very least, none of Ziyue's enemies had been able to see through this flaw and use it to pose a threat to him. However, at this moment, as he improved the heaven-startling staff strike to the phenomenal success stage, the profundity of the Tao integration stage instantly raised his vision to an unimaginable level. It was the same attack, the same Tao technique. Naturally, there would be mistakes. I believe that once I fix these flaws, my strength will be able to increase by a large margin. Ziyue guessed with great confidence. Boom, 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 boom. It was also at this moment that countless extraterrestrial demons made their moves as well. One after another, their attacks smashed towards Ziyue. Although Ziyue had killed a large number of extraterritorial demons, there were too many extraterritorial demons in the void. Each of them formed a myriad demons formation. Not only was their aura terrifying, but they also seemed to be joining forces to form a huge net that could cover the sky, trapping Ziyue within. Die! At the same time, the 10,000 Hands Heavenly Devil also rushed over. Previously, when Ziyue struck out with his staff, the pressure of the Great Tao was so shocking that even he felt fear. However, when his attack easily crushed the staff, he immediately understood that Ziyue's staff was just a bluff. He, a dignified expert at the peak of the spirit-severing realm, a heavenly demon expert, was actually tricked. Endless fury surged into his heart. His wrinkled face couldn't help but contort into a ferocious expression. Countless palms immediately pushed out, forming demonic seals. When these demonic seals rushed out, they instantly combined, forming a huge skeleton-like figure. It was like the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves as it surged towards Ziyue. Howl, 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 howl. The wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves contained an extremely exquisite primordial spirit attack technique. Even if a demon lord at the spirit-severing realm encountered it, his primordial spirit would be in intense pain and show signs of collapse. Once a demon lord was affected, his primordial spirit would instantly collapse and die. There was no possibility of any accidents. However, when a wailing of ghosts poured into Ziyue's body, it was like a gentle breeze that instantly passed through. It didn't affect him at all. The primordial spirit attack technique of a peak spirit-severing realm expert is indeed exquisite and powerful. Unfortunately, because of my special cultivation technique, my primordial spirit particles and physical body particles have merged. Whether it's a pure material attack or a pure primordial spirit attack, it's difficult to cause any harm to me, unless these two attacks have reached an unimaginable level and can annihilate all my physical body particles and primordial spirit particles. Ziyue felt the state of his body. The wailing and howling had indeed injured him slightly. His primordial spirit particles and physical body particles had been slightly damaged, but this level of injury was not even 1% of his primordial spirit particles and physical body particles. He only needed to circulate his primordial spirit slightly, and within a few breaths, he would be able to recover to his original state. However, even if this primordial spirit attack poses a small threat to me, the full strength attack of a peak spirit-severing realm expert can't be underestimated. Ziyue didn't relax, just because the wailing of the skeleton demon shadow didn't pose a threat to him. He knew that if he resisted the full strength attack of a peak spirit-severing realm expert with his own defense, he would definitely not be able to deal with it. Even if the defense of the Kunwa Golden Pagoda and the real dragon mysterious armor technique were unparalleled, it was very likely that they would be shattered in one blow, causing irreparable damage to himself. Therefore, when he saw the skeleton demon shadow rushing over quickly, Ziyue swung his cudgel without thinking. This cudgel was the heaven-shocking cudgel. This cudgel followed a special trajectory in the dark. The shadow of the cudgel was slender, but it seemed to carry the power of heaven, causing the world to change color. As the shadow of the cudgel was swung out, at this moment, it seemed that the supreme rules of the infinite universe had descended, completely crushing the great Tao of this world, forming a strong pressure of the great Tao. Chi, chi, chi. Under the pressure of the great Tao, all the attacks that rushed towards Ziyue seemed to be suppressed, stripped of their divine light, became shaky and pale, and their power was greatly reduced. This was the great Tao's subservience, instinctively reacting to the supreme rules. It's just a bluff. The 10,000-hand heavenly demon snorted, extremely confident. It was impossible for him to fall in the same place twice. He stretched out his 10,000 hands, condensed a mysterious light, and threw out another attack. At the same time, the skeleton demon shadow that rushed towards Yue also rushed over at an even faster speed. Yue did not answer, and the cudgel fell lightly. Buzz! It directly smashed on the skeleton demon shadow. Chi. Then, as if it was crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, the terrifying skeleton demon shadow, which was enough to kill any expert at the advanced stage of the spirit-severing stage, was instantly shattered and annihilated, turning into a stream of flowing light and dissipating. Then, Ziyue's cudgel shadow did not reduce its power, and it quickly crushed down, rushed in front of the 10,000-hand heavenly demon, and hit the mysterious light that he had just used. That mysterious light was called the demonic source light, and it was also a top-secret skill at the spirit-severing stage. Its power was unparalleled, but when Ziyue's cudgel shadow fell, the demonic source light turned into a stream of flowing light and quickly dissipated. How is this possible? This cudgel, the power of this cudgel, is actually so powerful? Could it be that he was hiding his strength before? The 10,000-hand heavenly demon was stunned. His face was full of disbelief. Previously, it was also a shocking cudgel that contained the powerful and terrifying power of the Great Way, but it was easily crushed by him with a casual blow. It was very vulnerable. He had originally thought that this strike would be the same as the previous one. It was just a bluff from Bai Ziyue, and that he would be able to easily destroy it. Moreover, he would be able to quickly kill Bai Ziyue with the remaining force of his attack. In the end, it was completely different from what he had expected. The power of his opponent's cudgel was unbelievably powerful. Not only did it easily annihilate his attack, but it also directly smashed in front of him. That kind of terrifying momentum, that kind of pressure of the Great Way, completely shocked his soul, and he even did not have the heart to resist. Rumble. Then, he could only watch helplessly as the cudgel's shadow fell on his body. Bang! More than half of his body was quickly crushed and turned into a pool of blood. He was severely injured. This attack directly caused him to be seriously injured. Not only was more than half of his physical body broken, but his primordial spirit also suffered indelible damage, and the pain was unbearable. This is the heaven-shaking cudgel. Even if it's only at the great achievement, its power is stronger than when I used the heaven-shaking 3 cudgel strikes before. It's definitely at the top level of the peak of the spirit-severing realm. Although it did not directly kill the heavenly demon with 10,000 hands, it has seriously injured him. Unfortunately, there are too many extraterrestrial demons this time, and I have lost the possibility to continue to attack the heavenly demon with 10,000 hands and kill him completely. Ziyue looked at the heavenly demon with 10,000 hands, who had turned into a pool of blood and quickly fled into the distance. He felt regretful, but his face was very calm. Now, his strength had increased greatly, and the situation had reversed, so he was completely relieved of the crisis. Next, it would be up to him to decide whether to fight or to retreat. Naturally, his decision was not to be doubted. Fight. Kill. Now that his strength had increased greatly, and the heavenly demon with 10,000 hands, who could have been a threat to him, was seriously injured, he naturally hoped to take advantage of such an advantage to kill as many experts of the extraterrestrial demon realm as possible and obtain as much soul power as possible. The heaven-shocking stroke of the staff of the profound realm already has such a strong power. Then, how amazing and terrifying will the heaven-shocking stroke of the complete realm be? Ziyue was full of anticipation. His figure flashed, and he quickly rushed into the group of extraterrestrial demons in front of him. The shadow of the staff swung out, and all kinds of means were displayed in a short period of time. What kind of monster is this extraterrestrial demon? Why do I feel that his strength is so much stronger than before? Even the heavenly demon with 10,000 hands is no match for him. Could it be that only the sovereign heavenly demon can kill this extraterrestrial demon completely? Countless extraterrestrial demons in the surrounding area were terrified, and they looked at Ziyue in awe. They really felt a sense of despair in their hearts. They did not expect that the astral world, which was originally very weak in their eyes, with the strongest being only at the peak primordial spirit realm, would have such a powerful monster like Ziyue. Now, even the heavenly demon with 10,000 hands had been seriously injured by him, and its combat power had been greatly reduced. With so many experts attacking together, it was difficult to pose a threat to him. Then, who else would be able to deal with him? Then, in the minds of all the extraterrestrial demons, there was a sovereign heavenly demon from 10,000 years ago who was only one step away from the path integration realm, and who had not appeared for 10,000 years. This sovereign heavenly demon was definitely more powerful and terrifying than the heavenly demon with 10,000 hands. At this moment, in despair, they could not help but place their hopes on the sovereign heavenly demon. Chapter 859. I'm just afraid that even if the sovereign heavenly demon descends, it won't be a match for this demon. It was also at this moment that a faint voice sounded. It was Demon Master Jioshan, who had already reached the late-stage Demon Master realm and was ranked third in the demon world. Demon Master Jioshan was the most ancient powerhouse in the extraterritorial demon world. He had lived for nearly 100,000 years and had personally witnessed the rise of the sovereign heavenly demon and the 10,000 hands heavenly demon. He had even seen the sovereign heavenly demon in action. As soon as he said that, countless extraterrestrial demons, who had been holding on to hope, suddenly felt gloomy. Unless the sovereign heavenly demon's strength improves further. Immediately after, he spoke again with a rare fanatical tone. All the extraterritorial demons' eyes lit up. 10,000 years ago, the sovereign heavenly demon was already at the peak of the spirit-severing realm and was only one step away from the Tao integration realm. If it improved further, wouldn't it be the Tao integration realm? If the sovereign heavenly demon's strength reached the Tao integration realm, there was no doubt that this astral demon would no longer be a threat and could be easily crushed. However, very soon, all the extraterritorial demons looked disappointed. It was obvious that the sovereign heavenly demon had not reached the Tao integration realm. Otherwise, they would definitely be able to detect the heavenly Tao's trembling. If it was in the past, the sovereign heavenly demon would naturally find it difficult to reach the Tao integration realm. The great Tao would not allow the birth of an existence that is equal to it or even surpasses it and can threaten it. However, now that the extraterritorial demon calamity has descended, even the 10,000 hands heavenly demon can't deal with it. The great Tao might relax its restrictions and even help the sovereign heavenly demon. Demon Master Jioshan said in an inexplicable tone, "It can't be. The great Tao has no thoughts, no emotions, and no desires. How could it?" Some people hesitated, but they couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation and fear. They were looking forward to the birth of a Tao integration realm powerhouse, but they were also afraid of the changes that the appearance of such an existence would bring to the entire extraterritorial demon world and themselves. The sovereign heavenly demon did not appear this time. Perhaps it's because of such a scheme. Demon Master Jioshan had lived for too long and was a late-stage demon master. In terms of understanding the sovereign heavenly demon, no one would dare to say that he was number one in the entire extraterritorial demon world. Therefore, although there was a hint of doubt in his words, his expression was full of confidence. This is the only choice. If you don't help me, the entire demon realm will suffer a catastrophe. The land under the heavens would sink, the dragon veins would be severed, and the level of the world would plummet. Naturally, the power you can wield will be greatly reduced. In a quiet valley, a stalwart figure looked at the void and spoke faintly. Wong, Wong, Wong. As his voice fell, the entire world could not help but tremble as if it was in a state of fury. You don't have to be angry. I'm not threatening you. You and I have an agreement. I'll help you devour the star realm, and you'll help me break through to the Tao integration stage. After 10,000 years of planning, they were about to succeed. Perhaps this outer astral devil was a counterattack from the will of the great Tao of the astral realm. Once you've made it through, everything will be over. Naturally, you'll be able to easily devour the astral plane. If we fail, it will be a calamity between us. Speaking of which, you're just bringing forward the reward you promised me. For you, there's no loss. That's right. I have to remind you that for some reason, the external devil's strength has been increasing rapidly. When he first stepped into the demon realm, he was only at the mid-stage primordial spirit realm. Now, not only has he reached the peak of the primordial spirit realm, but his strength has also reached the peak of the spirit severing realm. Now, even the 10,000-armed heavenly demon can't do anything to him. Speaking of which, this 10,000-armed heavenly demon was secretly supported by you to keep me in check. Looking at his strength now, although he's not very strong, he can indeed be considered a great expert, as expected of the great Tao's son, the king of providence. However, with his strength, it's still a little difficult to deal with this external devil. The stalwart voice spoke again, as if it was talking to the entire world. It was very strange. He shook his head and revealed a hint of a smile. This stalwart figure was naturally the strongest expert in the demon realm. He was also one of the true immortal experts who had stepped into the star realm 10,000 years ago, a supreme existence, the supreme heavenly demon. Just as Jioshan had guessed, he did have his own plans. The Tao integration stage. That was his goal. This was a realm that he had dreamed of, and he had been stuck at for far too long. In order to be able to break through, he had constantly planned and calculated, and now he finally saw the hope of success. Ziyue's appearance, in the eyes of others, was a huge crisis, but in his eyes, it was indeed an opportunity. An opportunity to force the will of the great Tao to help him advance to the Tao integration stage in advance. Naturally, he was not willing to let it go. Soon his gaze seemed to penetrate the endless void and saw the battlefield in the distance, and his face suddenly changed. He said in surprise, "The strength of that external devil has become stronger again. This blow, the power of this blow, is no weaker than mine. This external devil is too strong. The speed of his growth is too frightening. Perhaps it won't be long before his strength will increase rapidly again. You'd better make a decision quickly, otherwise, even if I take action, it will be difficult to keep him in check. If it really comes to that, with my strength and means, I can go far away to the endless stars and wander the starry sky. However, you can only watch the mountains and rivers of the demon realm shatter, and the spirit veins are cut off. Instead, you will be swallowed by the star realm, which is much lower than your world level." The supreme heavenly demon looked very serious, and said very seriously, "Rumble." The sky shook, and the will of the great Tao seemed to be shaken. Then, after a short while, there was a five-colored auspicious light, which quickly scattered from heaven and earth, and rushed directly toward the sovereign heavenly demon. "Thank you for your help." The sovereign heavenly demon was overjoyed and quickly sat down cross-legged. He scattered the countless resources that he had accumulated for countless years around him, and he also used all his strength to activate the demonic arts, and swallowed the endless five-colored auspicious light into his body. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The heaven and earth combined forces, and the great Tao resonated, and instantly merged with the sovereign heavenly demon. The entire extraterritorial demon realm suddenly darkened at this moment, and endless energy surged wildly, rushing toward the sovereign heavenly demon. Chi. The sovereign heavenly demon's aura also rose rapidly with the consumption of countless resources and the descent of the five-colored auspicious light. Soon, it rose to an unimaginable level. In one go, I have to accumulate soul energy again and completely upgrade the heaven-shocking staff strike to the perfect stage. Otherwise, I might not have such a good opportunity next time. Ziyue thought in his heart, and his eyes were cold and indifferent. Then he did not chase after the 10,000 hands heavenly demon, but turned around, and countless staff shadows slammed in another direction. Heaven-shocking 72 staff strikes. Heaven-shocking 36 staff strikes. Heaven-shocking 18 staff strikes. Heaven-shocking 9 staff strikes. Heaven-shocking 3 staff strikes. Heaven-shocking 1 staff strike. In a short period of time, Ziyue displayed all the heaven-shocking staff strikes. In an instant, a large area in front of him was completely covered by countless staff shadows, and almost no corner was left untouched. Rumble. The void collapsed, and the earth sank. Regardless of who it was, how many experts there were, and how strong they were, as long as the staff shadows passed by, the experts in the 10,000 Demons formation were all smashed, turned into powder, and dissipated into nothingness. At the same time, on Ziyue's attribute panel, his soul energy was also rising rapidly. 1 billion won, 1 billion won, 2 billion won, 3 billion. The joy of the crazy increase of his soul energy was really intoxicating. Then, he once again turned into a stream of light and rushed in another direction, quickly attacking. Quick, stop him! Help! Countless extraterrestrial demons let out desperate cries, but it was to no avail. When Ziyue's attack landed, no matter what kind of existence it was, they all turned into pools of blood without a corpse left. Even the entire void seemed to have turned blood-red because of the fall of countless extraterrestrial demons, looking very strange and desolate. Stop him! We can't let him kill all the demon kings. A demon master level expert quickly came to his senses. As he shouted, he quickly rushed towards Ziyue, wanting to stop him. After all, they were demon masters at the spirit severing stage, and they had clones outside. Even if his body fell, it would not be serious. As long as they cultivated for a certain period of time, they could use the particles of their flesh and blood to be reborn from a drop of blood. Rumble. More than 10 Demon Master level experts attacked, including the 10,000 hands heavenly demon that was reborn from flesh and blood after being injured. At this moment, a mystic light also shot out. Oof. Do you think I can't do anything to you? Ziyue preferred to hunt down the group of extraterrestrial demons that formed the 10,000 Demons formation with Essence Soul Realm cultivators. This was not only because they were weaker, but also because of the advantage in numbers. Each 10,000 Demons formation gave Ziyue a lot of spiritual energy. It was not inferior to killing a Demon Master level expert. But even so, in the face of the provocation of Demon Master level experts, he naturally could not be indifferent. In the face of the many Demon Masters rushing over, Ziyue only used one staff. Only one staff. As the giant staff descended, it was as if a terrifying force had descended. Moreover, it was accompanied by an extremely intense pressure of the Grand Tao. Rumble. More than 10 Demon Master level experts were terrified at the same time. It was only at this moment that they truly felt how small they were under the pressure of the Great Tao. Only then did they understand the huge gap between them and Ziyue. Several Demon Master level experts even directly gave up on attacking when they saw the power of this staff and turned to flee. However, all of this was too late. Ziyue's staff swung out too quickly and swiftly. The shocking sky staff technique was originally known for its speed. Now that Ziyue had even used the power of time reversal, its speed had increased to an unimaginable level. Chi, the staff shadow fell, and almost in an instant, 3 Demon Master level experts' bodies directly shattered, turning into a cloud of blood mist. There were even 5 or 6 experts who did not dodge in time and suffered unimaginable injuries. Moreover, what made their expressions change even more was Chapter 860. The moment the staff shadow fell, they all felt a special power follow an unfathomable path and directly descend on their clones that were tens of thousands of miles away. Poof, poof, poof. Even their clones were severely injured by this attack, especially the 3 experts who were blasted into bloody foam. Their clones that were tens of thousands of miles away were also hit by this power at the same time and directly turned into dust. They had completely died. How is this possible? His attack is able to penetrate space-time and land on our clones. We just received the news. Zihe Demon Master, Jin Bei Demon Master, and the others have all died. This was especially true for Demon Lord Zihe, who was in the middle of giving orders, but the moment the attack landed, he was turned into dust and disappeared. Dozens of his subordinates saw it with their own eyes. The group of Demon Master level experts were horrified and revealed extremely fearful and terrified expressions. If it was just a normal attack, even if Ziyue's attack methods were shocking and the power of that attack was unbelievably strong, they would not have been able to deal with it. However, they were not afraid. The reason for that was because that strike was only capable of killing their clones at the very most. As for their true bodies, they were actually still several tens of thousands of kilometers away, or even several tens of thousands of kilometers away in their lairs. If their clones died, they would at most lose a few handy demonic treasures and a portion of their wealth. It would not be a threat to their lives at all. However, at this moment, they clearly felt something different from Ziyue's attack. Not only could the opponent's attack directly land on their bodies, but it could also follow an unknown path and land on their actual bodies, causing a threat to their actual bodies. All the Demon Masters' expressions changed, and they felt a chill in their hearts. There was great terror between life and death. Even they, who had reached the Demon Master level, could not break free from this terror at all. The Heaven-Startling Staff technique is completely different from any other staff technique in the Heaven-Startling Staff technique. Not only is the level of the technique extremely high, but it is also a Tao integration level ultimate technique and contains extremely exquisite mysteries of the Great Tao. The method of killing a cultivator's actual body through the clones and super long-distance curses is actually just an application of another type of rule. And coincidentally, the Heaven-Startling Staff technique contains this kind of rule application. Ziyue was very clear about the wonders of the Heaven-Startling Staff after he had repaired it. Previously, he had only raised it to the small success stage, so its power was limited. This sort of super long-distance technique that used the karma and fate laws to kill the true body of a demon lord-level powerhouse didn't pose much of a threat to the other party. As such, he did not truly use it. However, at this moment, after he had raised the heaven-shaking single staff technique to the great accomplishment stage, the power of this staff technique had already reached an extremely shocking level. With the might of the Heaven-Startling Staff, coupled with the karma curse, the effects were instantly brought to bear. In one fell swoop, a total of 3 demon lord-level powerhouses, including their clones and bodies, were killed at the same time. The 3 Demon Masters have brought me a total of 900 million points of spiritual energy, together with the 1 billion points from before. My spiritual energy has once again soared to 3 billion points. Ziyue couldn't help but glance at his attribute panel, seeing that his spirit energy had once again soared to 3 billion. He felt a burst of excitement in his heart. If I want to raise the Heaven-Startling Staff technique from the Great Accomplishment stage to the Great Accomplishment stage, I need 56 billion points. Now that my spiritual energy has reached 3 billion, that is to say, I only have a gap of slightly more than 200 million points. This isn't difficult for the current me at all. It's just 1 Demon Master left and right, or 2 to 3 demon arrays. Ziyue thought so in his heart. Without hesitation, he swung out his staff again. Rumble. Under the Heaven-Startling Staff technique, everything in the world, including the mysteries of the great Tao of the entire world, seemed to have become insignificant. The faces of the several demon masters that the staff shadow was aimed at were all filled with fear. They wanted to dodge, but they discovered that their speed in front of this staff shadow was as slow as a turtle crawling. They wanted to block, but they only had time to use defensive techniques. However, they knew very well in their hearts that with their own strength and means, they couldn't block at all. They would be instantly smashed into meat paste and completely annihilated. It was really because the power of Ziyue's attack was too strong. Not only had it reached the peak of the spirit severing stage, but it was also considered to be at the top of the peak of the spirit-severing stage. Even the 10,000 hands heavenly demon, who also had the strength of the peak of the spirit-severing stage, found it difficult to block, let alone them. At this moment, they only hoped that this attack of the other party wouldn't cause any harm to their original bodies that were tens of thousands of miles away. It might even be like the Jinbei Demon Master and the others, directly killing them together with their original bodies. Chi. After one strike, 5 of the 6 demon masters were immediately turned into blood foam and dissipated into nothingness, as if they were dried twigs. Only a mid-stage spirit-severing stage expert relied on a superior-grade defensive demon treasure to block with all his might and barely escaped the disaster. However, even with the help of the superior-grade defensive demon treasure, that terrifying power still crashed into his body and directly injured him. As for the other 5 demon masters, they weren't so lucky. Not only were their clones killed, but a special and strange attack power also followed the power of the karma and fate rules and directly descended on their original bodies. In an instant, there were 4 demon masters who had completely fallen. Only one person, after using all his means, did not directly die, but he also suffered unimaginable injuries. His soul was almost shattered, and he almost immediately fell into a deep sleep. If he did not have the help of a rare treasure, he would need at least thousands of years of quiet recuperation to completely recover. After the staff hit, Ziyue didn't stop. With a twist of his body and a flash, he quickly disappeared from where he was. Boom, boom, boom. Soon, the area where Ziyue was immediately flooded by endless attacks. Obviously, when Ziyue attacked, the many extraterrestrial demons didn't stay idle either. They all used all their means to attack him. Even Ziyue could only rely on time reversal, time acceleration, and the use of many defensive techniques to survive. However, it was inevitable that he more or less also suffered some injuries. Kill. Although he's strong, his realm is still low after all. I don't believe that he can unleash such powerful combat strength endlessly. Such a terrifying attack. Even with the Demon Master's rich origin energy, he can't use it more than a few times. This extraterrestrial demon has been fighting fiercely for a long time. I think he won't be able to hold on much longer. Kill. One by one, the extraterrestrial demons roared. They didn't believe that Ziyue could attack endlessly. In addition, Ziyue's great path will make him an enemy of the entire world. Any extraterrestrial demon who saw him would feel resentful, as if they had an irreconcilable hatred with him. Naturally, they would fight with their lives. One attack after another quickly rushed toward him. However, they were destined to be disappointed. With the support of the attribute panel, as long as Ziyue had enough soul energy, his origin energy would be endless and would never be exhausted. And now, how much soul energy did Ziyue have? In addition, he had been attacking all along. In the blink of an eye, he killed a lot of extraterrestrial demons. Naturally, his soul energy kept rising. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Right at this moment, the entire world suddenly shook. Then, in the distant horizon, heaven and earth were suddenly torn apart as a terrifying aura soared into the sky. Ziyue was about to attack when he suddenly felt the change in the sky in the distance. His heart suddenly jumped, and he felt uneasy. Breaking through the sky, great Tao harmony, Tao integration realm. Did someone break through to the Tao integration realm, which is above the spirit's severing realm? An extraterrestrial demon suddenly exclaimed, his face full of disbelief. It's the sovereign demon. Only a supreme heavenly demon could cause such a huge commotion. Only he has a chance of making another breakthrough to the Tao integration stage. The other extraterrestrial demons also had the same guess. Then, their eyes were filled with fanatical excitement. The sovereign demon was the absolute king of the extraterrestrial demon world. 10,000 years ago, he was already at the peak of the spirit-severing realm. He was only one step away from the next realm, the Tao integration realm. In comparison, although the 10,000 hands demon was also at the peak of the spirit-severing realm, In terms of means and strength, almost all the extraterrestrial demons knew that he was far inferior to the sovereign demon. Tao Integration Realm? The legendary sovereign demon is about to appear, and he has the strength of the Tao Integration Realm? Ziyue's heart jumped, and he was also a little worried. The Tao Integration Realm was a realm above the spirit severing realm. There was a gap of 2 full realms between him and Ziyue. No matter how confident he was in his own strength, he was also clear of the huge gap between himself and the Tao Integration Realm. I have to end this quickly. Moreover, my spirit power has reached more than 3 billion points, which is enough to raise the heaven-startling staff strike to perfection. Even if this heaven-startling staff strike to perfection can't pose a threat to the sovereign demon master who is about to break through to the Tao Integration Realm, it should be able to greatly increase my ability to protect myself. Ziyue took a deep breath and used the power of time reversal again. After dodging most of the powerful attacks, his gaze fell on the stats interface immediately. Consume 2,560 million points of spirit power to raise the heaven-startling staff, strike from perfection to perfection. Upgrade. Ziyue chose to upgrade without hesitation. Instantly, a huge amount of cultivation experience, understanding of the great Tao of the heaven-startling staff strike were all imprinted in his mind. And he seemed to have gone through thousands of years of bitter cultivation as he directly cultivated the heaven-startling staff strike to perfection. The heaven-startling staff strike to perfection, Ziyue murmured, and he was immersed in it. He silently felt the gains brought by this upgrade. This time, his gains were not only the mastery of a secret technique, but also a transformation from inside out. Especially his understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Even if he was only at the peak of the primordial soul realm, he reckoned that even the 10,000 hands demon, who was at the peak of the spirit severing realm, was far inferior to him. Chapter 861. Now that I've perfected the heavenly staff strike, my strength has also soared. Not only in terms of attack power, but because my understanding of the laws of heaven and earth has reached an unimaginable level. I know all kinds of Abhijna and Tao techniques like the back of my hand. When I use the same Tao technique now, its power will also soar greatly compared to before. Therefore, the level of my strength has actually increased to a certain extent compared to before. Even with my current strength and foundation, it's not impossible for me to make another breakthrough and advance to the spirit-severing stage. Ziyue silently digested the changes in his strength after this upgrade. If he could erupt with the power of the peak of the spirit-severing stage with the help of the heavenly staff strike before, then at this time, even if he used the heart sword technique and a 9 thunder god destroying seal, it would be enough to erupt with the power of the peak of the spirit-severing stage. And if he used the heavenly staff strike, even if he hadn't really used it yet, he believed that the power of the staff would definitely be unbelievably strong. Surpass the peak of the spirit-severing stage? Reach the Tao integration stage? It wasn't impossible. At this moment, all kinds of complicated emotions surged in his heart, and Ziyue clearly felt his strength. This kind of strength seemed to be on par with the heavens and could break through the sea, and it made him extremely intoxicated. It also made him involuntarily feel a sense of enlightenment in his heart. He understood that the shackles that were originally placed in front of him between the primordial spirit stage and the spirit-severing stage were now as thin as paper and could be broken at any time. In fact, long ago when he mastered the killing heart and created his own heaven-breaking Tao technique, the great Tao unification technique, the level of his strength and the level of his realm were actually already at the peak of the primordial spirit stage. The only thing lacking was the irrigation of strength and the accumulation of origin energy. At that time, he actually already had the possibility of breaking through to the spirit-severing stage. It was only because of the obstruction of the will of the great Tao, coupled with the fact that his understanding of the laws of heaven and earth was not deep enough that he couldn't break through with strength, that he didn't have much confidence. And now, his accumulation was enough, and his realm had reached the peak of the primordial spirit stage. Because of the heavenly staff strike and the heavenly staff strike, his understanding of the great Tao of the universe had already reached an unimaginable level. Naturally, he already had the possibility and foundation of a breakthrough. Moreover, at this moment, he already had a certain degree of confidence. He was confident that he could break through his shackles and raise his strength to the next level. However, in the extraterritorial devil world, due to the obstruction of the great Tao will of this world and the interference of numerous devil Tao experts, my chances of breaking through are infinitely lower. This was not a suitable place for a breakthrough. Astral boundary. Only in the star boundary can my strength and realm advance smoothly. Even if the will of the great Tao interferes with me, I am confident that I can break through all of them and forcefully advance. Ziyue thought silently, his heart filled with confidence. After all, the world level of the astral plane was much lower than that of the extraterrestrial devil world. Naturally, the interference that hindered his breakthrough was relatively weaker. He could break through all techniques with his strength, forcefully break through the shackles and suppression, and advance to the level of the spirit severing stage. Half-step Tao integration stage? Even with my countless years of accumulation, tens of thousands of years of foundation, and the support of the will of the great Tao, I only managed to make a small breakthrough to the half-step Tao integration realm. In the nameless valley, the sovereign heavenly demon's face turned slightly ugly. He could feel that his current strength was much stronger than before. However, this kind of strength was somewhat different from what he had imagined. There was no feeling of transcendence, as if he could surpass heaven and earth and obtain great freedom. In other words, although his realm and strength had soared, and to a certain extent, he was indeed at the level of the Tao integration stage, he did not surpass the world of the demon world. He was still under the control of the will of the great Tao of this world. As expected, this will of the great Tao has already awakened its consciousness and is selfish. Although it helped me break through my realm, it still has a trick up its sleeve. It did not allow me to transcend the world and completely integrate with the heavens. The sovereign heavenly demon quickly understood what was going on. Actually, this was also because he did not have enough foundation and could not completely master one of the supreme Tao laws and truly achieve the integration of body and flesh, the integration of body and mind, and the integration of spirit and Tao. However, he believed that if the will of the great Tao really wanted to help him, with the foundation of this world and the number of supreme Tao laws that it contained, he would be able to completely master them in an extremely short period of time. Then, he would be able to integrate the Tao laws and officially advance to the Tao integration stage. It would not be like now, where only the power of his true essence had reached the Tao integration stage. In fact, in terms of realm, he was still a little lacking. At most, he could only be considered as a half-step Tao integration stage cultivator. However, even a half-step Tao integration stage cultivator has greatly improved my strength, and there has also been a fundamental change in my state of being. Next, as long as I completely comprehend and integrate one of the supreme Tao laws, I will naturally be able to completely advance to the Tao integration stage. From then on, I will be free and unfettered and will never be different again. Although the sovereign heavenly demon was a little unhappy, he quickly became relaxed. At least, he had already crossed the most difficult threshold. The only thing he lacked was to comprehend the Tao laws and use them to integrate with the Tao. This was already a great surprise to him. As for next, I should also fulfill my promise and attack that outer astral demon. No matter who it is, he will definitely die this time. The sovereign heavenly demon's gaze immediately turned and looked at the battlefield in the distance. Buzz. Without a sound, his entire body fused with the world. Then, with a slight sway, he appeared several thousand kilometers away in the blink of an eye. Teleport. This was a movement technique that only Tao integration stage cultivators could master. Teleport. It was able to merge with heaven and earth directly and move between two places in this world. With his cultivation realm and strength, one teleport could cover a distance of 5,000 miles. Not only was his speed unbelievably fast, but the direction of his body was also completely unpredictable. It was really exquisite to the extreme. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. After teleporting once, the sovereign heavenly demon did not stop and continuously used teleportation techniques. In just a short 4 or 5 teleportations, he had already crossed a distance of more than 20,000 miles. Then, he quickly appeared in the outer region of the battlefield. He saw the myriad demon array formed by countless demon kings. He also saw more than 10 demon master-level powerhouses besieging the outer astral demon powerhouse. However, the outcome did not seem to be good. Even though their attacks were concentrated and their power was extremely terrifying. However, the outer astral demon, who was at the center of the battlefield, was moving erratically and would suddenly change directions from time to time. Although it seemed extremely dangerous and could be hit at any time and be severely injured, it could always avoid the most threatening attacks by a hair's breadth and then calmly face the aftermath of the attacks that were not too strong. Then, the other party could always counterattack at the right time, and often it would result in great results. In the short time that he had arrived on the battlefield, 2 myriad demons formations formed by Demon King level experts have been directly destroyed by him. Countless extraterritorial demon experts had also perished at the first moment. Only a few lucky ones were able to survive by sheer luck. The strength of this outer astral demon is indeed not simple. Moreover, he seems to have mastered one of the 2 supreme great Daos, the time lineage. The flow of time around him is obviously much faster than in other places. The sovereign heavenly demon sighed inwardly, but was not surprised. If this outer astral demon was not strong, why would the great Tao be so flustered and desperately gather people to besiege him? How would he be able to take this opportunity to break through and reach the half-step Tao integration realm in one go? Then, the moment Ziyue threw out the flying sword again, he finally made his move. His figure flashed and instantly increased his speed to the maximum. Ziyue fought fiercely in all directions. His every move contained great power, and the battle was obviously much easier than before. Even when the 1,000-armed heavenly demon recovered and attacked again, it did not pose a threat to him. However, it was also at this moment that he suddenly noticed that there was an expert on the periphery of the battlefield. Like a flash of light, he rushed straight toward him at an incredible speed. Moreover, the other party's aura and momentum, perhaps because he had just broken through, were very obvious and completely different from ordinary demon masters. He was stronger, more ethereal, and his aura was more unique. Sovereign Heavenly Demon. This is the Sovereign Heavenly Demon. Has he really broken through to the Tao integration realm? Ziyue's heart skipped a beat, and he instinctively felt a strong threat. A Tao integration realm expert was considered an expert outside of the astral boundary and in the endless galaxy. At this time, although the sovereign heavenly demon had just broken through, his strength was definitely beyond imagination. Bai Ziyue was filled with apprehension and was naturally very cautious. While frantically retreating, he also restored the origin energy in his body to its original state. He clenched the long rod in his hand tightly and exerted a little force. A unique aura that contained endless mysteries uncontrollably emanated from his body at this moment. It's the sovereign heavenly demon. The sovereign heavenly demon is here. His aura. As expected, the sovereign heavenly demon has broken through. He has broken through to the Tao integration realm. Tao integration realm. This is probably the first Tao integration realm expert in our world, right? Originally, I was a little worried. With the strength of this outer demon, even the sovereign heavenly demon could not do anything to him. Now, the sovereign heavenly demon's strength has broken through again and reached the Tao integration realm. Then, no matter how strong the outer demon is, he will definitely die at this moment. At this moment, the others also noticed the sovereign heavenly demon's figure at the first moment, and their faces were filled with incomparable surprise. The sovereign heavenly demon was originally the strongest expert in their world, and his strength was unbelievably strong. They had pinned their hopes on him. Now, the sovereign heavenly demon's strength had broken through again and reached the Tao integration realm. Naturally, they were extremely excited and confident that the sovereign heavenly demon would definitely be able to kill Ziyue easily and completely resolve the crisis of this world. Chapter 862. It's time for everything to end. The sovereign heavenly demon said indifferently. Then he opened his hand and a huge black palm blasted out. Rumble. As soon as the palm appeared, it covered the surrounding void. Looking over, only the countless faint runes on the black palm could be seen. The surrounding heaven and earth began to solidify, causing Ziyue's speed to decrease greatly. It seemed that there was no way to escape. Everyone could feel the terror of this palm. What a powerful attack. It's definitely beyond the peak of the spirit severing stage. Tao integration realm. Has this sovereign heavenly demon really broken through to the Tao integration realm? Ziyue quivered, and his heart was extremely heavy. This kind of control over heaven and earth, as well as the power of the Tao laws that solidified the void, made him understand that the other party's comprehension of heaven and earth had reached the extreme. It was really very powerful and powerful. This kind of power is too strong. It's definitely the strongest existence that I've encountered since I started cultivating. If it was before I raised the heaven-startling staff strike to perfection, facing an expert of this level, not to mention fighting with him, I reckon that even if I used all my means, I wouldn't be able to escape. Time reversal? In the face of absolute strength, time reversal can't change anything. Time acceleration? It can only increase my attack speed by a few times. How can it compare to the Tao of heaven and earth of a Tao integration realm expert's comprehension of heaven and earth and the suppression of this world? Ziyue's mind was clear, and he felt lucky. Fortunately, I've upgraded the heaven-startling single stroke to perfection. In terms of the use of the Tao laws of heaven and earth, I'm not weaker than the other party. To a certain extent, I've even surpassed the other party. As for the power, Ziyue held the long staff tightly and swung it out at the same time as the other party's palm print fell. Before the attacks of both parties landed, a shocking power of the great Tao spread out in all directions and collided. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The terrifying power of the great Tao made almost all the experts at the Demon Master realm and above tremble in fear. They couldn't help but feel a sense of submission. Even those experts at the Demon Master realm turned pale and frantically retreated, as if they didn't dare to take too much. Then, Ziyue's staff shadow completely collided with the black palm. Rumble. Die. The sovereign Skyfiend's eyes were filled with anticipation. He was extremely confident in his current strength. Now that he had broken through to the half-step Tao integration stage, he wanted to see just how powerful his attacks had become. On the other hand, Ziyue was an existence that even the devil world's will of the great path feared. Ziyue was an existence that many experts in the devil world couldn't capture and kill in a short period of time, even if they worked together. This was already worthy of him going all out, and he could also test the power of his attack. Just in time, Ziyue's eyes were also filled with anticipation. Before the arrival of the sovereign heavenly demon, he had just raised this heaven-startling strike from great success to great perfection. Even though he clearly knew in his heart that this increase would definitely cause his strength to undergo a tremendous change and far surpass his previous strength, he still did not have any confidence in his heart before truly witnessing the might of this rod. Now that a Tao integration stage powerhouse was making a move, the sense of danger in his heart had reached the extreme, and the thought of clashing with him had truly sprouted in his mind. After all, at that time, even if he was no match for them, he would still have the power to resist. At the very most, he could use time backtrack in time before the opponent's attack arrived. At that time, he could backtrack as much time as possible and do his best to return to the star boundary. The rod was swung out. As the terrifying power filled the air, The yuan power in Ziyue's body immediately turned into an invisible whirlpool and was directly swallowed by the long rod. Sizzle! Even with the density of the yuan power in Ziyue's body, it was sucked dry in the blink of an eye. This consumption is too terrifying, isn't it? Ziyue's expression changed. Even though he had long known that the more powerful an attack was, the more yuan power would be consumed. However, the consumption of this strike was still so great that it was beyond his imagination. He hurriedly used his spirit power to quickly recover his yuan power, and only after a total of 3 tries did he truly throw out the rod. The rod's shadow rapidly smashed onto the black palm. Bam! How is this possible? The sovereign heavenly demon's expression suddenly changed. Then, he saw Ziyue's long rod smashing on his black palm. With just a slight delay, his black palm could not withstand the impact and was directly smashed into smithereens. The absolute power of the attack, his own technique, was actually no match for the other party's rod. Could it be that his strength has increased again? The sovereign demon's heart trembled. Back when Ziyue killed the first demon master, the peacock demon master, he had already noticed Ziyue's arrival. Even though he could not rush over in a short period of time, due to his location, he had witnessed the growth of his strength through his performance. Middle primordial spirit realm, late primordial spirit realm, peak primordial spirit realm. His combat strength also increased along with his cultivation level, and the profoundness of his attack techniques also soared. In fact, 10 breaths ago, he had even noticed that Ziyue's strength had increased to the point that he could rival a peak spirit severing stage expert and was not weaker than the 10,000 hands demon master. However, he did not expect that after 10 breaths, when his cultivation level had increased to the half-step to Dao integration stage, the other party's strength had also increased tremendously. His absolute power had even surpassed his own. What kind of monster is this? How could there be such an existence in this world? He began to doubt his life. The other party's growth speed was really beyond his comprehension, and many questions arose in his heart. However, his reaction speed was not slow either. The moment Ziyue's rod shadow smashed his black palm, countless bone armors immediately appeared around his body. The bone armors immediately combined and blocked in front of him. At the same time, the sovereign celestial demon opened up his own domain in time. His domain had grown to an extremely high level after reaching the half-step to the Dao integration realm. Not only could he use it to fight his enemies, but his defensive means were also better. He reckoned that even the 10,000 hands demon, whose strength had reached the peak spirit severing stage, would not be able to last long in his domain. Chi! Ziyue's shocking rod strike completely smashed the black palm. Then, without any reduction in strength, it rapidly landed in front of the sovereign demon and instantly broke through his domain defense. Boom! The rod shadow continued to fall and broke through his bone armor defense. In fact, the bone armor defense was actually an upper-grade demonic bone armor. Its defensive techniques were excellent, and its defensive power was one of the best in the entire extraterritorial demon world. However, it was still not as powerful as Ziyue's rod strike. Bam! The rod shadow continued to fall on the sovereign demon's body. The terrifying impact, after passing through many obstacles, had actually been weakened countless times. In addition, the sovereign demon's strength was shocking, and his physical defense was also extremely terrifying. This blow hit the sovereign demon's entire body. Finally, most of the remaining power was dissipated by his exquisite control of strength. The remaining power did not cause much damage to him. As expected, it's impossible to kill a Dao integration stage powerhouse with a single strike. Although my attack power is strong, it is also extremely difficult to pose a threat to him. Ziyue's eyes revealed a trace of regret, but he was not disappointed. He had long known that the other party's strength was too shocking. To be able to defeat the other party in terms of absolute attack power was already a surprise to him. The only thing that made him feel a little helpless was that this shocking rod strike required a shocking amount of energy. Even with the density of his origin energy, he still needed to perfect it 3 times before he could unleash it. Fortunately, he had the stats window, and his spirit energy was sufficient. Otherwise, under the siege of so many Demon World experts, he would have been exhausted and killed long ago. Bai Ziyue had a clear understanding of his own strength and means after defeating the sovereign celestial demon with 1 strike. He was very confident. Without hesitation, he struck again. Chi chi chi. Once again, it was consumed 3 times. A huge amount of origin energy surged into the rod like a flood. Then, following some unknown trajectory, it struck towards the sovereign demon again. Not good. The sovereign demon's heart skipped a beat. Although it was a little difficult to accept the fact that he was inferior to the other party in terms of absolute power, he was even more aware of the danger he was in. He would die. He would really die. The other party's attack power was already enough to pose a threat to him. He hurriedly sent out a palm strike again, and a square seal was thrown out. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a huge mountain and struck towards Ziyue fiercely. Bam! Ziyue's expression did not change as he swung out the rod shadow. The palm strike was smashed, and the square seal was also sent flying under the terrifying impact of the rod shadow. Then, without any reduction in strength, it continued to strike towards the sovereign demon. The sovereign demon did not even think as he hurriedly used his integration with heaven and earth technique to retreat like a ray of light. But he was still affected by the rod shadow, and a large amount of flesh and blood melted. Damn it! The sovereign demon's heart skipped a beat, and he was extremely terrified. At this moment, he actually felt the threat of death. Kill! Seeing this, Ziyue's confidence increased greatly. The 3rd strike was immediately executed. Rumble. The void started to crumble as it pressed down on the sovereign heavenly demon. The pressure of the great Tao trapped the sovereign demon firmly in the void, and he could not escape at all. 1 strike of the rod spanned 3,000 miles. Even though he was astonishingly fast and could fly thousands of miles in an instant, he was not as fast as Ziyue's rod shadow. It's over. The sovereign demon was in despair. He did not expect that he would die, just as he had just broken through and had not even had the time to show his power in front of others. He did not even have the time to display his true power as a half-step to the Tao integration realm. Tens of thousands of years of endless cultivation and 10,000 years of planning were all going to be for naught. It's over. At this moment, the hope that had risen in the hearts of countless other extraterrestrial demons sank in an instant, and they fell into despair. Even the strongest sovereign demon, who had obviously broken through to the Tao integration realm, was not a match for the outer astral demon. Naturally, they were even weaker. Next, wouldn't the entire extraterrestrial demon world fall into the fear of being dominated by the outer astral demon? And they would not be able to escape death. Chapter 863. Dying. Ziyue was also looking forward to it. He was looking forward to whether his staff could really kill the supremacy heavenly demon completely. But just at this moment, the void shook and suddenly cracked open. Then, an overlapping space appeared beside the supremacy heavenly demon instantly. Almost as if it was a stroke of luck, the supremacy heavenly demon rushed into the overlapping space and immediately used a magical technique that only Tao integration experts could master, teleportation, and then disappeared completely. Ziyue's expression changed. He immediately understood. The will of the great Tao. The will of the great Tao had made a move. At this moment, only the will of the great Tao in this world could break through the lock of Ziyue's staff shadow and send the supremacy heavenly demon away with the help of the teleportation power of the overlapping space. It seemed to be verifying Ziyue's guess. In the blink of an eye, countless void cracks appeared in this world, and countless overlapping spaces appeared. As if it was a stroke of luck, the countless extraterrestrial demons around also immediately understood that this was their best chance to escape. Without any hesitation, they quickly rushed toward the overlapping space. Want to run? You have to ask me first. Bai Ziwei was enraged and immediately attacked. After all, the supremacy heavenly demon had already broken through to the Tao integration realm. Apart from the attack, Ziwei could surpass it. In terms of speed, defense, and the strength of the primordial spirit, Ziwei was actually far inferior to the other party. Therefore, Ziwei was actually not too surprised that the other party could escape. He estimated that even if the other party did not use the will of the great Tao, he could still break through his attack lock and escape. But other demonic creatures, regardless of whether it was the Demon King level experts who formed the Great Demon Formation with the help of thousands of demons or the group of Demon Master level experts, he was confident that he could win and kill all of them. Naturally, he could not tolerate them leaving calmly under his watch. Therefore, he was beyond angry. The long staff in his hand swept out and quickly rushed out, directly using the shocking staff strike. Buzz! 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 The shadow of the staff swept across and instantly covered a large area. At the same time, the flying sword in his hand flashed like lightning and quickly rushed in another direction. Then, a gray stream of light flashed, and a divine light swept out. A huge piece of black cloth covered the sky and covered the sun. At this moment, Ziwei used all his means. The Heart Sword Art, Grand Forbidden Spirit Art, Grand Magnetic Divine Light, Heaven and Earth Sleeve, 9 Lightning, God-Destroying Seal. He unleashed all of his techniques to kill as many extraterrestrial demons as possible. Even though some of the extraterrestrial demons reacted with astonishing speed and rushed into the overlapping space at the first moment. However, under the effect of time acceleration, Ziwei's speed was even faster and his attacks were even swifter. Many of the otherworldly demons didn't even have time to react. They were only subconsciously rejoicing that the sovereign sky fiend had escaped. The thought that they still had hope rose in their hearts. Then they saw staff shadows sweeping across, sword lights filling the sky, or divine light flashing. Then everything before his eyes turned black, and he fell completely into the boundless darkness, dying completely. Only some of the extraterrestrial devils with astonishing strength, who happened to be in the peripheral area and who were naturally agile, were able to survive the disaster. Boom, 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 chi, chi, chi. Under his frenzied attacks, a large group of extraterrestrial demons died in his hands in the blink of an eye. Among them, there was no lack of demon lord-level experts. In fact, Ziwei's shocking staff strike was too powerful. Just using it required 3 times the amount of origin energy consumption. When facing the Sovereign Sky Fiend, it might be a little strenuous. However, when facing this group of extraterrestrial demons who were at most demon lord level, it was naturally a lot easier for him. After dozens of breaths, the entire world was in a state of desolation. The ground was broken, and the void was silent. Only Ziwei stood in the void, like a demon god standing in the void, filled with endless blood chi. In this battle, he had killed too many extraterrestrial demons. He could be said to be a peerless demon, a killing god descending to the world. Naturally, there would be an endless amount of blood chi lingering around him. It would only dissipate after a long period of time. In the end, more than half of the extraterrestrial demons managed to escape. The number of extraterrestrial demons that I really killed was only 30% of the total number of extraterrestrial demons. Ziwei sighed, feeling a little disappointed. Everything was too sudden. After all, he was only one person. Even if the attack range was extremely wide, and he tried his best to keep as many extraterrestrial demons as possible, more than 60% of them still managed to escape. However, even if I only killed 30% of the extraterrestrial demons, the amount of soul energy it gave me is definitely not small. Then, Ziwei's gaze landed on his stats panel, and a strange glow flashed across his eyes. 9 billion soul energy. I didn't expect that the frenzied attacks at the end would actually increase my soul energy by so much. 7.9 billion spirit energy is definitely not a small amount. I just need another 2.1 billion spirit energy, and I can raise the number of spirit energy to 10 billion. 10 billion soul energy will definitely allow my stats panel to upgrade again. By then, there will probably be another change that will allow my strength to increase greatly again. Ziyue was actually somewhat satisfied in his heart. Before stepping into the extraterrestrial demon world, he had come with the determination to die. Who would have thought that everything would go so smoothly? With the help of the stats panel, his strength continued to soar, and unknowingly, he was invincible in the extraterrestrial demon world. He killed countless extraterrestrial demons, and all of them were terrified. In the end, it was the will of the Great Path that helped them escape. However, the timing of this will of the Great Path's attack was too precise. It just so happened that the sovereign demon was about to be defeated, and countless extraterrestrial demons were in despair. If not for this, the number of extraterrestrial demons that I could have killed would definitely be more than half. By then, my soul energy would have already reached 10 billion soul energy. Ziyue thought to himself, but he couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. From the various performances of this will of the Great Path, this was definitely not something that the will of the Great Path, which had no thoughts and no wisdom, could do. Although the other party's methods were still part of the rules of heaven and earth, they were too frequent and ingenious. Moreover, the methods that were targeted at him were too obvious. Even if Ziyue was only an external demon to the extraterrestrial demon world and was naturally incompatible with this world, he shouldn't have been targeted to such an extent. Even now, overlapping space, void cracks, divine thunder of Jiawei, this will of the Great Path can be said to have schemed in order to deal with me. Ziyue looked at the countless phenomena around him that were rarely seen in hundreds or thousands of years. Suddenly, they appeared in a dense cluster around him. He understood that if he continued to stay here, what awaited him would probably not be a good outcome. The will of the Great Path of a world, especially this will of the Great Path that was obviously unusual, was really too much of a threat to him. Once this will of the Great Path completely awakens and attacks me with all its might, I reckon that even if I use all my means, I won't be able to escape this calamity. A strong sense of danger rose in Ziyue's heart. Under the dark clouds, violent lightning brewed, giving him an endless sense of threat. Although he still wanted to take advantage of his great victory to continue attacking and completely resolve the crisis of the astral realm, he also wanted to greatly increase the number of his spirit energy, causing it to reach 10 billion. However, when he thought of the environment he was in, once the number of spirit energy reached 10 billion, the attribute panel would definitely be upgraded. At this moment, when the attribute panel was upgraded, then his time acceleration, time reversal, and methods of spirit energy recovery would definitely be sealed. Under such circumstances, in this extraterrestrial demon world where the entire world was his enemy, his situation would be worrisome. After all, the reason why he could be invincible in the extraterrestrial demon world was mostly because of the power of the attribute panel. There's not much point in continuing to stay here. My strength isn't enough to sweep through the entire extraterrestrial demon world. Once the number of spirit energy accidentally reaches 10 billion, the attribute panel won't be able to upgrade, and my strength will definitely be greatly reduced. Ziyue thought silently, then couldn't help but sigh and say, "Why don't I go back? Why don't I go back?" Then, he carefully avoided the overlapping spaces and space cracks. With the Kunwa Golden Pagoda and the True Dragon Armor technique, Ziyue slowly walked toward the space entrance. Along the way, Ziyue could occasionally feel a sense of spying. Obviously, there was no lack of powerhouses who were using some kind of ultra-long-distance magic treasure to monitor him, but he didn't care. Along the way, he even encountered 2 small demonic nests. The Demon King-level extraterrestrial demons naturally escaped at the first moment. However, the remaining demonic creatures were all killed by him, adding bricks and tiles to his spirit energy. In this way, Ziyue's spirit energy soared to 1 billion points. Soon, Ziyue's figure appeared at the space passage. From the time Ziyue entered the extraterrestrial demon world to the time when he was about to leave, it was actually only about an hour. Therefore, this place still retained the traces of the battle after he faced the encirclement when he first arrived here. Zua silently stood in place and stared at the void in the distance. This time, thank you for taking care of me. If I don't do anything, wouldn't I be letting you down? Zua said inexplicably from afar, and then the yuan qi in his body crazily gushed out. He stretched out his hand, and a demonic staff was already in his hand. Rumble. Heaven's startling staff technique. Smash! Ziyue roared. The staff shadows that filled the sky quickly swept out. Heaven startling 72 staff strikes. Heaven startling 36 staff strikes. Heaven startling 18 staff strikes. Heaven startling 9 staff strikes. Heaven startling 3 staff strikes. Heaven startling 1 staff strike. At this moment, Ziyue actually displayed the complete transformation of the heaven startling staff technique, and then with the last staff strike he swung out. Rumble. It fiercely smashed into the endless void, into the universe's firmament, and into the will of the great Tao. Chapter 864. It was impolite not to reciprocate. In the short half an hour since he stepped into the extraterritorial demon world, he had received a lot of care from the will of the Great Path. It was impossible to say that he was not resentful. Therefore, before he left, he attacked with all his might. Rumble. The long staff swept out and swept across 3,000 miles, crushing everything around it. It also followed some kind of invisible trajectory and locked onto the existence that was spying on him and casting divine curses on him in the endless void. There seemed to be green smoke coming out, and there was also a muffled sound like thunder. Bai Ziyue immediately felt his body lighten, and the feeling of being in a desperate situation, being surrounded by bad luck, and even the divine punishment like the seal of heaven and earth seemed to have left him at this moment. Did my attack really cause harm to the will of the great path of the extraterritorial demon world? Ziyue could not help but have a strange thought. He wanted to try again, but he suddenly looked at his attribute panel and could not help but be stunned. The number of spiritual energy had already reached 7 billion, and it was rapidly increasing as time passed. That's right. My attack did not kill any experts in the primordial spirit realm or the spirit severing realm. However, the dragon vein in the divine Deer Mountain range has been uprooted by me, and the impact is real. Countless creatures have fallen into desperate situations because of the severing of the dragon vein. Mountains and rocks have been broken, rivers have flowed in reverse, the earth has collapsed, and the sky has collapsed. Too many creatures have died because of this. In addition, my attack that spanned 3,000 miles has intensified this change. Even if the death of a single living being gives me very little soul energy, when countless living beings die at the same time, the amount of soul energy accumulated is extremely shocking. Ziyue quickly came to a realization. The extraterritorial demons were not the only creatures in this world. In the wilderness, there were also strange beasts like demonic beasts. Perhaps they were not very intelligent, but their numbers were 10 times or even 100 times more than the extraterritorial demons. This time, Ziyue had uprooted the dragon vein and defied the heavens to change the origin. The impact on these living beings was even greater. Many of them had died in a short period of time. Naturally, this caused Ziyue's spiritual energy to soar rapidly. 7 billion, 8 billion, 9 billion. Ziyue only paused for a moment, and the number of souls reached 9 billion. Now that he had perfected many of his techniques, he didn't have any techniques that could greatly deplete his soul energy. He could only watch as his soul energy rapidly increased. I have to leave quickly. Once my soul energy reaches 10 billion, my stats panel will be upgraded. Then, I won't be able to use my time reversal, time acceleration, and soul energy to recover my origin energy. At that time, it would be difficult for me to unleash my original strength that allowed me to battle the world. Ziyue felt a chill in his heart. He was very clear that he relied a lot on the attribute panel. Most of his strength could only be unleashed with the help of the attribute panel. If it was really calculated based on his true strength, without the help of the attribute panel, Ziyu could at most unleash a combat strength comparable to the late Essence Soul realm. However, with the help of the attribute panel, time reversal, time acceleration, origin energy recovery, and other means, not only would his life-saving ability, his combat strength, and his attacking speed increase greatly, he would also be able to perfectly unleash the power of the Heaven-Shocking Staff. The Heaven-Shocking Staff was a technique that was completely at the level of the Tao integration realm. In other words, without the attribute panel, I'm only equivalent to a late spirit severing stage expert. At most, my attack techniques are astonishing, and I can unleash a power comparable to the peak of the spirit severing stage. If I include the attribute panel, then my strength has completely stepped into the peak of the spirit severing stage. In fact, even at the peak of the spirit severing stage, I'm considered an expert. In terms of attack, I can even unleash the power of the Tao integration realm. Ziyu had a clear understanding of his own strength. He knew that after the attribute panel was upgraded, his strength would be greatly reduced, and his situation in the extraterrestrial demon world was worrying. Buzz. Right at this moment, Ziyu felt his body shake. His gaze quickly fell on the attribute panel, and as expected, he saw the words "System Upgrading" displayed on it. My spirit energy has broken through the 10 billion mark. The attribute panel has indeed upgraded again. Ziyu was a little happy, but also a little regretful. If it weren't for the restriction of the attribute panel, he would really have the idea of killing his way through the entire extraterrestrial demon world. Now, he could only leave for the time being. Thinking of this, in order to avoid unnecessary complications, he didn't stay for too long. His figure turned and directly rushed into the space passage. Soon, with the help of the space ruler, he quickly passed through the barrier between the two worlds and returned to the astral realm. As soon as he stepped into the astral realm, a familiar aura swept over, causing Ziyu to involuntarily feel as though he had been separated from the world for a lifetime. Even in the extraterrestrial demon world, he was like a peerless god of slaughter and was incomparably carefree. However, the doomsday-like scene, the constant targeting of the great Tao will, and the thick malice that always shrouded him made him feel very uncomfortable. Now that he had returned to the astral realm, the freedom and closeness, the aura that was like a mother's under the shroud of primordial chi made him involuntarily smile like a child and reveal a joyful expression. "You're back." Without a sound, an old man who seemed to be completely hidden in the depths of the void and could only be seen as a faint illusion in this world appeared not too far away. He stared at Ziyu. This silver-haired old man was Immortal Songhai. Obviously, he had been waiting not far away and immediately rushed over when he sensed the movement here. "You're back." Ziyu nodded. If it was before, it would be difficult for him to detect the other party's figure due to the difference in their realms. But now, his comprehension of the heaven and earth Tao and the great Tao of the universe was not inferior to the other parties in the slightest. In fact, he was even superior. Naturally, he could detect the other party's figure through the space barrier. "I didn't expect you to come back so soon. It's actually very normal that you didn't find the origin energy of the astral realm. It's already a great fortune that you were able to escape successfully from there. This time, your experience in the extraterrestrial demon world must have been of great help to your cultivation. After stabilizing and absorbing it, it might be possible for your strength to increase by another." How is that possible? Your strength has reached the pinnacle of the primordial spirit realm? Immortal Songhai saw that Ziyu's face was weather-beaten, and it was obvious that he had been through a series of battles. Moreover, he had only been in the extraterrestrial demon world for a very short time, so he thought that Ziyu had not gained much and could not help but comfort him. But immediately, he sensed that Ziyu's aura was different. Pinnacle of the primordial spirit realm, Ziyu's immortal technique realm had already reached the pinnacle of the primordial spirit realm. If he remembered correctly, the other party was clearly only at the mid-stage primordial spirit realm an hour ago. "I've gained a little." Ziyu nodded casually, and then continued. As for the origin energy of the astral realm, I've got it. With that, he flipped his hand, and a jade box appeared in his hand. When he opened the jade box, a wisp of ethereal and blurry aura that seemed to contain supreme Tao laws and also seemed illusory and traceless appeared in front of him. It was the origin energy of the great Tao of the astral realm. Without much hesitation, Ziyue flicked his finger and directly flicked this wisp of origin energy of the great Tao into the space channel. Sizzle, after a series of violent sounds, the space membrane in the space channel quickly burst like a bubble. Then, the origin energy of the great Tao of the astral realm quickly rushed in and directly repaired the space channel that was originally extremely weak and had been swallowed by the extraterrestrial demon world to form it. The space channel was completely closed. Instantly, the supreme crisis that had originally loomed over the heads of the cultivators in the ancient barren region was temporarily and completely removed. What's going on? Why did your strength increase so quickly? And you even managed to snatch the origin energy of the great Tao of the astral realm from the hands of the demon world expert? According to what I know, the expert who controls the origin energy of the great Tao is a demon king expert at the peak of the primordial spirit realm and has many subordinates helping him. Not to mention you. Even the so-called supreme realm experts of your world would find it difficult to snatch the origin energy of the great Tao from the hands of the other party. Immortal Songhai asked with a face full of shock. Great opportunities are often hidden in great dangers. I'm also very surprised that my cultivation could increase so quickly. As for the supreme realm, didn't I tell you that before I entered the demon world, I already had the combat strength of the supreme realm? Now, even an ordinary spirit severing stage cultivator might not be my match. Ziyue smiled and explained again, avoiding the important points and dwelling on the trivial. He ignored Immortal Songhai's shocked and incredulous expression and asked, "There's something I'd like to ask Senior about." "What is it?" Immortal Songhai took a deep breath and finally accepted the fact that Ziyue's strength was extremely strong. As for the other party's claim that he could defeat a spirit-severing stage cultivator, he did not take it to heart. Spirit-severing stage cultivators were two completely different realms from the primordial spirit realm. It was rare for 1 in 10 million people to be able to fight across realms. He did not think that such an existence could be born in a lower middle world like the astral realm. As everyone knows, there's a great Tao will in every world. Ordinary great Tao wills are emotionless and act according to the supreme laws. But this time, when I entered the extraterrestrial demon world, I could clearly feel the emotions of the extraterrestrial demon world. They even targeted me and did many things that violated the supreme laws. Ziyue hesitated for a moment, and then hurriedly recounted his encounter in the extraterrestrial demon world. With his current strength, he was not afraid of what Immortal Songhai would think after knowing his strength. There was no other reason. This was the confidence that came with his strength. You saw a supreme spirit-severing stage cultivator? His strength even broke through? He reached the Tao integration stage? Most importantly, you even fought with him, and you're still alive. Not only are you still alive, but you even defeated him? You provoked the great Tao will to personally take action? Immortal Songhai was so shocked that he began to doubt his life. Chapter 865. Ziyue's words were simply too shocking, and he didn't dare to believe them. He had never thought that Ziyue's strength had already reached such an astonishing level. As someone who had fought with a supremacy heavenly demon before, and had even experienced the terror of being dominated by a supremacy heavenly demon 10,000 years ago, he was well aware of the other party's strength. In his opinion, that was an invincible existence. In the end, such an invincible existence was still no match for this young cultivator in front of him, even after breaking through to the Tao integration stage. He didn't want to believe it and instinctively doubted it. However, Ziyue's expression didn't seem to be one of evaluation. He was also confident that no one could lie in front of him without being detected. What I said is naturally the truth. Ziyue nodded, not surprised by the other party's reaction. This was because he knew very well that what he had done in the demon world was indeed a little shocking and sensational. However, this was the truth. He disdained to lie, and there was no need for him to prove anything to others. Perhaps that supremacy heavenly demon's strength also regressed after the ancient battle. Immortal Songhai was still unwilling to believe it, and said somewhat self-deceptively before continuing, "As for that great Tao will, if I'm not wrong, it should have already awakened its own intelligence. This kind of great Tao will is very difficult to deal with, and it may not be a good thing for a world. This is because awakening their own intelligence often means that they have their own thoughts and desires, and they also have greed. Once greed is born, the first thing they think of is to strengthen themselves. They instinctively want to expand their surroundings. The reason why your astral realm encountered such a calamity might be because the other party has awakened its own intelligence and wants to devour your astral realm to strengthen its own origin. Awakened its own intelligence? Then how can we stop it from expanding outwards and devouring the origin of the astral realm?" Ziyue was stunned and immediately asked, "There are two ways. The first is to strengthen the origin of your astral realm. When the origin of your astral realm is far stronger than the origin of the demon world, the other party naturally won't dare to act rashly because there's the danger of being devoured. On the other hand, the other method was simple. It was to destroy all techniques with force. So long as one's strength was sufficient, one would naturally be able to disperse the quintessence of the Grand Tao and wipe out its own intelligence. Naturally, he would not have the idea of invading the outside world. However, I believe that for your star boundary, no matter if it's the first or the second method, it won't be easy. If the astral boundary origin wanted to grow to the level of the devil world, or even surpass the devil world, the treasures and resources needed were enough to create another astral boundary. Moreover, it could only be obtained from a distant star field. With the speed of a cultivator at the pinnacle of the primordial soul realm, just a round trip alone would take more than 100 years. By the time the treasures and resources are exchanged back, your astral realm would have long been devoured into dregs. As for the second method, the world level of the demon world was not low, since it could give birth to an expert at the peak of the spirit severing stage like the supreme heavenly demon. In that case, I estimate that it would require at least the power of the Tao integration realm to cause damage to the demonic realm's will of the great Tao and obliterate it. The Tao integration realm is an existence that is in harmony with the heavens, the earth, and the Tao. In any star field, they would be considered a powerhouse. I estimate that in the surrounding dozens of realms, there might not even be a single Tao integration realm powerhouse. But now, that supreme heavenly demon should be added to the list. Immortal Songhai explained with a hint of emotion in his voice. "I see." Ziyue nodded. It was no wonder that when he struck the other party with the heavenly staff, the power of the divine punishment on his body immediately disappeared. It seemed that his strike back then had actually caused damage to the demonic realm's will of the great Tao. He estimated that if he had struck it a few more times, he would have been able to completely disperse the consciousness of the great Tao. What a pity! Ziyue was slightly regretful, but he was not too disappointed. If there was a first time, there would be a second time. He believed that when he entered the demonic realm the next time, he would definitely be able to disperse the consciousness of the other party and completely resolve the crisis of the star boundary. All right, this matter has been settled. I should also take my leave and go into seclusion. I hope that the next time I come out of seclusion, I can see that the crisis of the star boundary has been completely resolved and that it is free from the entanglement of the demonic realm. Soon, Immortal Songhai sighed. His figure flashed, and he quickly flew off into the distance. "I will," Ziyue only replied indifferently. He did not stay in the same place. With a move of his feet, his entire body instantly turned into countless particles and quickly disappeared under the guidance of an invisible force. When he reappeared, Ziwe was already 2,000 miles away. Then, with just a few flashes, he appeared in the ancient desolate battlefield. This time, Ziwe had gained a lot in the extraterrestrial demon world. Apart from the many spoils of war and the spiritual energy obtained from killing the countless extraterrestrial demons, Ziwe's greatest gain was the dragon vein in the divine Deer Mountain range. Previously, when the immortals descended, they had broken the dragon vein in the ancient desolate realm, causing the ancient desolate realm to sink and the spirit chi to scatter and become extremely thin. It had also caused the ancient desolate realm to become a land of immortal spells barren. For this, Ziwe had naturally put in a lot of effort. This time, the dragon vein he had obtained from the extraterrestrial demon world was the solution he had in mind. He believed that when he completely planted the dragon vein in the ancient desolate realm, it would definitely be able to greatly increase the spirit chi in the ancient desolate realm in a short period of time and return it to its former glory days. Furthermore, because the dragon vein in the divine Deer Mountain range was far stronger than the ancient desolate realm 10,000 years ago, and the dragon vein in the ancient desolate realm had not been completely broken, the combination of the two would make the ancient desolate realm's dragon vein even stronger, and the spirit chi would surge even more. It might even become the #1 immortal spell Holy Land in the astral realm. Ziwe was looking forward to it. Soon, he arrived at the center of the ancient desolate battlefield, the land of the fallen immortals. Ziwe heaved a sigh as he looked down at the broken dragon vein below. Only a few small branches were connected to the various areas, and the dragon court ancestral chi that was escaping was extremely thin. It was barely enough to nourish the surrounding land and slowly repair the surrounding branches. Then, without any hesitation, he stretched out his hand. Rumble! The ground collapsed and the mountain rocks scattered. The entire scene of the dragon vein appeared before him. The dragon vein's revival is now, Ziwe shouted, and the Kunwu Golden Pagoda flew out automatically, following which a huge spatial hole opened up. Within the space was the dragon vein that Ziwe had pulled out from the divine Deer Mountain range in the extraterritorial demon world. Rumble! The dragon vein was extremely huge. As soon as it appeared, it immediately caused the entire world to tremble. Countless amounts of primordial chi were emitted from the dragon vein and immediately caused the surrounding land to change. Mountains and rivers were uprooted and the earth was revived. Countless flowers and trees grew rapidly like bamboo shoots after the rain. They either turned into spiritual trees or grew into spiritual materials and earthly treasures. The surrounding spirit chi of heaven and earth became extremely dense in an instant. The ancestral chi of the dragon court turned into an auspicious light that shrouded the entire world. Go! Ziwe stretched out his hand and pointed. Buzz! 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 The complete dragon vein quickly descended and sank directly into the ancient desolate realm's dragon vein that was originally dead and lifeless, as if it was going to break at any time. Sizzle. The two merged almost instantly and then quickly sank into the entire earth, turning into a dazzling spirit chi that continuously nourished the entire ancient desolate realm. The ancestral chi of the dragon court was as turbulent as the Yangtze River. It flowed rapidly throughout the entire ancient desolate realm. The spirit mountains and spirit veins of the entire ancient barren region were rapidly recovering and growing under the nourishment of the dragon court's ancestral chi. Mountains rose from the ground everywhere, turning into towering peaks. Places that only had a small amount of spiritual chi became extremely rich in spiritual chi. The living beings that lived in the ancient desolate realm, regardless of whether they were ordinary beasts, poultry, pigs, or dogs, or the most intelligent human beings, all benefited greatly from the nourishment of the surging spirit chi. At the very least, it could prolong one's life and strengthen one's body. There were even some who directly comprehended the spirit chi and could cultivate immortal cultivation. At this moment, The entire ancient desolate realm was in the midst of a transformation. Between heaven and earth, even the will of the great Tao sensed this and sent down endless auspicious signs that illuminated the earth. It also seemed to be assisting the complete fusion of the dragon vein and promoting its growth. In fact, most of the auspicious aura was descending onto by Ziyue's body. Ziyue had planted the dragon vein from the extraterritorial demon world into the astral realm. It had imperceptibly increased the origin energy of the astral realm, and the level of the astral realm had also increased greatly. Naturally, heaven and earth sensed this and sent down auspicious signs to reward him. The changes in the ancient desolate realm were too great. In the blink of an eye, almost all the experts of the primordial soul realm and above in the astral realm sensed it and quickly approached. The first to arrive was immortal Songhai. He was about to go into seclusion, but he did not expect such a huge change to occur in the ancient desolate realm. Then, he was shocked to discover that Ziyue had cut off the dragon vein from somewhere and planted it in the ancient desolate realm. Thinking that Lin Fan had just returned from the extraterritorial demon world, how could he not know where the dragon vein came from? When he thought of the might of the backlash from the dragon vein, and the fact that the dragon vein would definitely be guarded by countless experts from the devil world, and it was even very likely that there would be devil masters at the spirit-severing stage guarding it, he finally began to believe what Bai Ziyue said earlier. Lin Fan did indeed have the combat power of the spirit-severing stage, and he could even be considered an expert in the spirit-severing stage. The only thing that he could not accept was what Lin Fan had said about defeating the supreme celestial demon. Moreover, it was a supreme celestial demon who had broken through to the spirit-severing stage. This was simply a myth. No one would believe it if they heard it. The spirit veins revival? Recreating the universe? How dare you? What a joke. With me, the poison calamity demon, here, how can I allow such a thing to happen? At this moment, a sinister laugh sounded. Then, a figure as tall as a demon god and shrouded in endless black clouds rushed over. Chapter 866. It's the poison disaster demon. He's still alive. Immortal Songhai's expression changed. The poison disaster demon was a true immortal expert of the late spirit-severing stage, just like him. However, he was skilled in formations, while the poison disaster demon was even more skilled in poison. In ancient times, the poison disaster demon was already stronger than him. Now, seeing the poison disaster demon's aura, which was like the descent of the heavens and the scene of endless poison, he immediately understood that the poison disaster demon had not only recovered from his injuries in the past 10,000 years, but his strength had also improved, reaching the peak of the spirit-severing stage. The peak of the spirit-severing stage was the sovereign celestial demon's original cultivation level. Even if the poison disaster demon's absolute battle strength was not as strong as the sovereign celestial demon's, he was still a peerless expert. At least in the astral world, he could dominate everything. The extraterritorial demon is a spirit-severing stage extraterritorial demon. In the distance, there were also experts who rushed over because they sensed the changes in the world. Among them, there was no lack of peak primordial spirit experts, and there were even 1 or 2 supreme realm experts. However, at the instant they saw the poison calamity heavenly demon, their faces turned pale, and they revealed shocked and horrified expressions. Bai Ziyue looked up and immediately noticed the poison calamity heavenly devil. The poison disaster demon seemed to have been hiding in a hidden space in the land of the fallen immortals, cultivating in seclusion. As such, even when Ziyue barged into the land of the fallen immortals, destroyed his arrangements, and killed the immortal corpse that he had painstakingly cultivated, he did not alarm him. However, at this moment, the awakening of the dragon vein and the sudden changes in the world were too great of a commotion. It also affected the poison disaster demon who was cultivating in the hidden space. He was immediately awakened and rushed out. Dying. The poison calamity heavenly demon saw by Ziyue almost immediately. He knew that Bai Ziyue was the one who had disturbed his cultivation. Furthermore, Bai Ziyue was delusional. He wanted to restore the damaged dragon vein to its original state and return the ancient barren region to its peak. As one of the fearless powerhouses that the sovereign heavenly demon had planted in the star boundary, he naturally couldn't tolerate such a thing happening. After approaching, he immediately charged towards Ziyue with a black flowing light. This black stream of light contained a terrifying poisonous power. Just by dispersing slightly, the green and lush flowers and plants in the surroundings rapidly withered and melted, turning into mud. The life force of all living beings in the surrounding dozens of kilometers was also immediately cut off, causing the surroundings to become a land of death. A thousandly crimson land. This is the poison calamity heavenly devil's signature move, a thousandly crimson land. Immortal Songhai was shocked, but a look of regret appeared on his face. He actually admired Ziyue very much. Ziyue came from a humble background, but he had grown continuously in a short period of time, reaching the peak of the reverse primordial spirit realm. His cultivation speed could be said to be the fastest among his peers, surpassing countless geniuses of the stellar regions. However, he knew very well that the poison calamity heavenly devil's attack would not be able to block it. Not to mention Ziyue, even he wouldn't be able to block it in a situation where he had yet to recover from his injuries. Moreover, the poison calamity heavenly devil's strength had broken through again, reaching the peak of the spirit severing stage. The strength of his attack had already exceeded his imagination. Therefore, even if he wanted to help Ziyue, he was completely powerless. I didn't expect to encounter another extraterrestrial demon so soon. Bai Ziyue raised his eyebrows in surprise. With a thought, a flying sword had already turned into a stream of light and rushed out. At the same time, he stretched out his finger. His jade-like fingers instantly formed a special seal, and then he quickly thrust it out. Chi-chi, without a sound, a terrifying thunder seal rushed out. In the end, Ziyue seemed to still feel a little insecure. With a flip of his hand, he swung his staff. Boom, boom, boom. A total of 3 staff shadows swept out rapidly. Heart Sword, 9 Thunders God-destroying seal, heaven-shaking strike. In a short period of time, Ziyue struck out consecutively, directly, using 3 skills. The Heart Sword art turned into a stream of light and rushed to the poisonous fog. With a sizzling sound, it pierced through the fog and quickly arrived in front of the poison calamity heavenly devil. With a loud bang, the poison calamity heavenly demon, who was about to charge over, came to a stop. The armor on his body instantly shattered, and the flying sword did not lose any of its strength as it pierced through his body. However, the poison calamity heavenly devil was a terrifying expert who had reached the peak of the spirit-severing stage after all. Although Ziyue's attack was powerful, and the power of destruction in the sword chi was extremely great, it only managed to heavily injure him. 30% of his life had been wiped out. However, soon afterwards, the 9 Thunders God-destroying seal shot over. Like a bolt of lightning, it rapidly rushed into his soul, causing it to disperse slightly. His life force weakened by another 30%. In the end, the endless staff shadows turned into a huge pillar and collapsed. Rumble. Not only did it directly disperse the poison, but it also landed on the poison calamity heavenly devil's body, completely turning his body into nothingness. This heaven-shaking strike contained a special mysterious power. It even landed on the poison calamity heavenly devil's doppelganger, destroying his doppelganger as well. Dead, the poison calamity heavenly devil had fallen. He was quickly killed by Ziyue's 3 consecutive attacks. Everyone who saw this was dumbfounded. They did not dare to believe their eyes. If it were not for the chaotic fluctuations of Yuan Shi in the surroundings and the scattered demonic treasures that belonged to the poison calamity heavenly devil on the ground, everyone would have thought that everything that had happened was an illusion. Such a scene was simply too shocking. A primordial spirit cultivator had killed a spirit-severing stage expert. Moreover, the spirit-severing stage expert's strength was clearly unparalleled. It was not just a spirit-severing stage expert who was in the middle and late stages of the spirit-severing stage. It seems that what he said earlier about defeating the supreme heavenly devil was also true. Immortal Songhai was dumbfounded. He finally completely believed what Ziyue had said earlier. After all, he was well aware of the poison calamity heavenly devil strength. Now, he had seen with his own eyes how easily Ziyue had killed him. That kind of strength, that kind of effortlessness, and that kind of rapid method of crushing his opponent made him unable to refute. As expected, among my moves, the heaven-shaking strike is still the most powerful. Even if I only use the heaven-shaking strike at greater mastery this time, its strength has already surpassed the Heart Sword Art and the Nine Thunders God-Destroying Seal by a large margin. It is also because of this that I was able to kill the poison calamity heavenly devil so easily. Ziyue scanned the battlefield indifferently. With a wave of his hand, he put away his spoils of war, revealing a pondering expression. He naturally had a clear understanding of his own strength now. If he used his full strength and used the Heart Sword Art and the Nine Thunders God-Destroying Seal, he estimated that his attack power would have officially reached the peak of the spirit-severing realm, which could be considered powerful. However, if he used the heaven-shaking strike, even if it was only at greater mastery, its strength would still be much stronger than the Heart Sword Art and other techniques. It would definitely be at the peak of the spirit-severing realm. It's a pity that I don't have enough Yuan Qi to use the heaven-shaking strike at greater mastery. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so troublesome. I could have killed the poison calamity heavenly devil with just a swing of the strike. Ziyue muttered. Then he felt a vast amount of auspicious qi pouring into his body. The poison calamity heavenly devil had caused great damage to this world, and had even stolen the astral world's source energy many times. He had long been noticed by the great Tao Will, and had been punished by sealing the sky and land and being plagued with bad luck. He had only been a little bit away from becoming an enemy of the world, like Ziyue in the demon world. Now that Ziyue had killed him, he naturally received a reward and a vast amount of auspicious qi. The auspicious qi has deepened, allowing my thinking speed, inspiration, and cultivation speed to increase greatly. Moreover, at this moment, the dragon vein has recovered, and all living things are reborn. Endless heaven and earth spirit qi has surged, and the dragon court's ancestral qi has transformed into immortal qi, enveloping the world. It can be said that it's suitable for me to break through. Why don't I use this opportunity to break through and step into the spirit-severing realm? The moment the auspicious qi poured into his body, Ziyue could not help but have the idea of breaking through. As early as when he was in the demon world, he had fought crazily. As his comprehension of the great Tao deepened, he felt that the shackles of the realm that originally enveloped him had loosened. He could break through at any time and officially step into the spirit-severing realm. However, because the environment in the demon world was too harsh, coupled with the interference of many otherworldly demons and the threat of the great Tao that had awakened its consciousness, the danger was extremely high, and it was not a good place to break through. Therefore, he held back and did not break through directly. Now that he had returned to the astral realm, the auspicious qi had deepened, and the spirit qi was abundant. He was immediately tempted. Without any hesitation, Ziyue took a deep breath and slowly closed his eyes. He quickly circulated the great primordial spirit scripture, and the surging primordial spirit scripture quickly gathered and then turned into streaks of dazzling golden primordial spirit scripture, rapidly pushing him to the next realm. And when Ziyue began to break through, the surrounding primordial spirit qi immediately boiled. Between heaven and earth, there were also streaks of extremely clear and almost completely manifested power of Tao laws descending. A terrifying aura spread, and a powerful force spread slightly, making anyone who saw it feel a sense of fear. Even immortal Songhai, who was powerful and at the advanced stage of the spirit-severing realm, was stunned at this moment and revealed a look of horror. Pressure of the great Tao. How can he have such a terrifying pressure of the great Tao on him? He had only seen this kind of pressure of the great Tao on powerhouses at the Tao integration realm. And now he saw it on Ziyue. As time passed, more and more powerhouses approached and also saw Ziyue, who was in the midst of breaking through. Zhou Gutong, the sect master of the Heavenly Spirit sect, and Sun Batong, the palace master of the 9-star Tao Palace. Zhao Qinquan of the Great Tao Business Alliance, Ming Jiang of the Limitless Demon Sect, and even Zhu Xuanjin, the sect master of the Heavenly Star sect, who was far away in the True Law domain, had arrived. There were also many powerhouses from various sects who came with them. After all, the revival of the Dragon Vein would naturally give birth to endless changes. Under the perception of the Great Tao, there would also be clear Tao laws manifesting in the world, allowing countless cultivators to easily peek into the true realm of the Great Tao. Whether it was cultivation or breaking through, it would become much faster, enough to save hundreds of years of hard work. Therefore, at this moment, there were actually many powerhouses who were madly rushing over. Even Fan Qingyu and Zhao Yu were brought along by Fairy Luo Hua, who came with Zhou Gutong, the sect master of the Heavenly Spirit sect. At this moment, they were also looking at the figure sitting cross-legged in the distance with a look of shock and surprise. That's Ziyue, the sect master of the Dark North sect? In that case, the dragon vein of the ancient desolate region was revived by him. The extraterrestrial demon, who called himself the poisonous disaster demon, previously seemed to have been killed by him. The extraterrestrial demon's strength was at the spirit-severing stage, but he was still inferior to sect Master Bai. What is he doing now? This phenomenon seems to be breakthrough. He is breaking through. Voices quickly came out from the mouths of the powerhouses. Then, as the word breakthrough fell, everyone was stunned and revealed a look of surprise and disbelief. Breakthrough? How is that possible? Didn't Taoist North Ming just break through from the peak of the Golden Core realm to the Essence Soul realm not long ago? He broke through so quickly? Wait, his immortal technique realm. It was only at this moment that everyone noticed Ziyue's immortal technique realm. The peak of the spirit-severing stage? Huh, what was going on? When did his immortal technique realm reach the peak of the spirit-severing stage? It had only been half a year since his last breakthrough. From the early stage of the spirit-severing stage to the peak of the spirit-severing stage, there was still the middle stage of the spirit-severing stage and the late stage of the spirit-severing stage in between. How could he have broken through in just half a year? One had to know that, as far as they knew, the fastest cultivator in the astral realm to break through from the early stage of the spirit-severing stage to the late stage of the spirit-severing stage in the past had to cultivate hard for 300 years. They were dumbfounded and almost couldn't believe their eyes. And most importantly, Ziyue was about to break through again. Chapter 867. Breaking through from the peak of the essence soul realm to the spirit-severing realm. This was a matter that shocked countless people and made them feel incomparably shocked. No one could have imagined that Ziyue's strength would increase at such a terrifying speed. Right now, as they looked at by Ziyue, who was blessed with auspicious signs and had a myriad of appearances, and especially at the fact that he could kill a top-notch severing divinity stage expert and the poison calamity heavenly demon, they truly felt reverent and emotional. Then, a thought appeared in everyone's mind. Will he succeed in breaking through this time? Instinctively, other than a few people like Fan Qingyu and Zhao Yu who were close to him, the others did not want him to break through in one go and step into the spirit-severing realm before countless people. This was because the other party's rise was too fast. Many people did not even have time to accept and adapt to the birth of this new supreme realm expert. But the other party had already advanced again and reached the spirit-severing realm. It would definitely have a far-reaching impact on the power structure of the entire astral realm and cause earth-shaking changes. He will succeed. If you notice the aura of Tao laws emitted by Taoist Northming, you should understand that his foundation and accumulation have actually surpassed ours by countless times. If he can't break through to the spirit-severing realm with such accumulation, then in the entire astral realm, no one will be able to cross that realm barrier and advance to the spirit-severing realm. Zhao Qinquan of the Great Tao Business Alliance said with a complicated tone. In fact, Zhao Qinquan was the first among the supreme realm experts in the astral realm to comprehend a heaven-breaking Tao technique and had a chance of breaking through to the spirit-severing realm. Before Ziyue appeared, he was known as the #1 expert in the astral realm. In order to break through to the spirit-severing realm, he could be said to have put in a lot of effort and cultivated bitterly. Naturally, he was clear about the cultivation conditions needed to break through to the spirit-severing realm. The aura on Ziyue's body and the aura of Tao laws that he manifested all proved that the other party's foundation was deep. In his opinion, Ziyue had walked much further on the path of cultivation than him and the others. If the other party could not break through, then there was no need to think too much about it. There is no hope for them to break through to the spirit-severing realm. The spirit-severing stage is when a primordial spirit realm cultivator forms a blade with his will and severs himself, severing his own primordial spirit into two halves and his physical body into two. It's a process of differentiation. It also contains the birth and development of a universe and the endless transformations of Tao laws. It's a process where Tao gives birth to one becomes two becomes three, and three gives birth to all living things. Ziyue's mind was calm as the essence energy in his body circulated rapidly. The power of his primordial spirit transformed into a carving knife. This carving knife hung high above his head and then ruthlessly chopped down. In the blink of an eye, it split into countless tiny blades. These invisible blades all slashed towards Ziyue, landing on his nascent spirit, his physical body, and even the tiniest particles of his flesh and nascent spirit, slicing them in half. Boom! Ziyue immediately felt his body and primordial spirit split in half. In an instant, two completely new yet interconnected consciousnesses appeared in his heart. Chi split. When by Ziyue's consciousness returned, he immediately felt a special feeling in his heart. He looked to the side and happened to see a figure who looked exactly like him. The figure had the same expression and aura as him. The figure was also looking at him with a smile. The original body and the doppelganger. This is the spirit-severing stage. The doppelganger will have at least 90% of the original body strength. The doppelganger will also be able to use all the techniques that the original body has mastered. Moreover, the two of them are originally one, but there are differences. Therefore, even if the doppelganger dies, as long as it is not attacked by a curse of the rules of fate, it will not be able to threaten the original body. Ziyue had a slight understanding in his heart. However, at this point, he had not completed a complete breakthrough. Although his original body and doppelganger appeared in the void, this doppelganger did not obtain any great Tao. Therefore, it also had to go through a tribulation before it could be completely born. This tribulation was called the Spirit-Severing Tribulation. It was a test of the great Tao's will in this world. Therefore, the moment the doppelganger appeared, layers of dark clouds immediately gathered in the void. It was vast and mighty, covering a radius of 3,000 kilometers. Under the pressure of the endless power, the mountains and rivers seemed to be pressed down by the pressure. Countless cultivators in the surroundings also showed a look of horror and quickly retreated into the distance. The power of the spirit-severing tribulation was definitely extremely terrifying. It had surpassed the level of the supreme realm and was a great threat to them. Once they came into contact with it, they would definitely die. Therefore, not to mention the ordinary primordial soul and golden core cultivators, even the supreme realm powerhouses had a solemn look on their faces and could not help but but retreat. Spirit severing tribulation? I'm not in the mood to wait for you to slowly prepare your attack. Ziyue raised his eyes slightly and looked at the endless dark clouds above the void. Then, a look of impatience appeared on his face, and he stretched out his hand. Chi! With a crisp sound, he stretched out his hand and pointed. A sword light immediately turned into a stream of light and rushed directly into the tribulation cloud. Rumble! The void trembled, and the entire tribulation cloud seemed to be unable to withstand such a terrifying attack. After a slight pause, it suddenly exploded and quickly dispersed. Buzz! 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 Immediately after, everyone saw a ray of seven-colored auspicious cloud light shining directly from the dispersed tribulation cloud onto Ziyue's body. Chi. Ziyue's original body and doppelganger were bathed in the light of the seven-colored auspicious clouds. Instantly, they felt relaxed, as if they had received some kind of special gift and recognition. They felt as if they could live as long as the heavens, transcend worldly affairs, and be carefree and free. He had broken through. At this moment, Ziyue had officially broken through and reached the spirit-severing stage. The tribulation cloud dispersed just like that. What's going on with his attack? Why didn't the spirit-severing tribulation descend? Could it be that the power of the sword has surpassed the power of the spirit-severing tribulation and dispersed the tribulation cloud? When have I ever seen such a scene, such an atmosphere? Since when have I ever seen it? When the surrounding cultivators saw this, they were all dumbfounded and could not believe it. Since the beginning of the Star Boundaries records, which spirit-severing tribulation, especially Ziyue's spirit-severing tribulation, did not tremble with fear and give it their all? Since ancient times, there were only a few who could succeed. But who would have thought that someone could pass the spirit-severing tribulation so easily? Before the tribulation cloud could descend, one attack pierced through heaven and earth, dispersed the tribulation cloud, and then passed through. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.